Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, The Age of Gods. My Tauren evolution can't be controlled. Chapter 1. 100 years ago, the world changed. Everyone can awaken the deity panel and internal plane at the age of 16. After you awaken, the race, plane, and priesthood you acquire will affect your life. At this time a teacher was talking about the origin of the deity. A boy is at the bottom of the class, thinking carefully about the next precautions. His name is Chen Yi. Is a war orphan. It has been 16 years since I traveled into this world. His parents had long since died in the War of Plains. Today is the day when they awaken at the age of 16. In this world, everyone can become a creation god. Everyone can open up a subplane in the chaos, ignite the divine fire, condense the divine personality, and create the divine kingdom. The place where they are is called the main plane. It evolved from a blue planet 100 years ago. The theme is extremely repressive against God. On the main plane, even if you are the main god, or even the supreme god, you can only be regarded as a superhuman. At this time, the teacher had taken out the fruits that exuded chaotic brilliance from his subplane. This is an imperial subsidy, issued by the school, specifically to awaken one's own gods. The fruit of the world on the highest world tree. The value is immeasurable. It is the subsidy that each person can only get once in his life. And their teacher, Zhou Heji, is here to distribute the subsidy to every student. Chen Yi looked at the fruit of the world tree in front of him. The fruit of the world tree is translucent, and there are countless world laws rotating in it. At this time, Zhou Heji, the head teacher, began to speak. Now all the classmates, now begin to press the fruit of the world tree on the center of the eyebrows, so that you can communicate chaos and open up your own plane. Hearing Zhou Heji's words, Chen Yi and other students all put the fruit of the world tree above their eyebrows. Chen Yi suddenly felt as if he had established a connection with a distant plane. At this time, an ancient voice appeared in Chen Yi's ear. Record, you successfully opened up a plane in chaos. Record, you successfully opened the God interface. Chen Yi was not surprised when he heard the sound in his ear. Because this is the voice of the plane will that every god has. Now his strength hasn't reached the upper god, and he can't really enter the plane he opened up. Can only be controlled remotely with will. After opening up the plane, the most important thing is what kind of priesthood he is, the amount of resources on the plane, and the race in that plane. What the priesthood affects is related to what laws one can master in the future, and what kind of laws he becomes. It is extremely important for future plane combat effectiveness and plane development. Races are divided into 5 levels: ordinary races, rare races, epic races, legendary races, and mythical races. Race is not to be as strong as possible. After all, the resources of one's own plane are limited. And the stronger the race, the lower the fertility rate. Once there was a student. After opening up the plane, there was an angel reincarnation pool in the plane. The rebirth pool of angels can transform lives into angels, but the resources required are massive. Because his own resources were scarce, the resources were unable to reincarnate angels at all, so he had to sell the angel reincarnation pool reluctantly and sold it to a middle-ranking Lord God of Light. However, the student has also received extremely generous resources, and is now a strong player. And the amount of plane resources affects the early development of his own race. If the plane is rich in resources, it means that your early development will be extremely fast. And if the plane resources are scarce, then he will struggle in the early stage. What's more, I don't have parents and family, and I can't get the resources that my parents can give. No matter what world you are in, reincarnation is a technical job. At this time, Chen Yi thought silently in his heart. Open the God interface. Then, a panel appeared in front of Chen Yi. Deity interface. Name, Chen Yi. God's name, Asathos. Title, God of Harvest. God order, Demigod. Power, the power of harvest, unlimited evolution. Harvest power, all harvests will reach the maximum value. Unlimited evolution, your race can evolve infinitely, and the evolution conditions will be triggered randomly once a month, limited to one race. Evolution trigger condition this month, 10 push-ups. Divine power, 0. Ignite the sacred fire, not lit. Required 100 points of supernatural power. Condensed Godhead, not condensed. Requires 10,000 supernatural powers. Construction of the kingdom of God, not constructed. Required is 1 million supernatural power. God's domain, the plain of harvest. Area, 500 square kilometers. Climate, temperate. Topography, 50% of plains, 10% of mountains, 10% of woodlands, 5% of depressions, 25% of lakes. Soil, 25% black soil, 50% brown soil, 5% saline soil, 10% alpine soil, 10% lithological soil. Animals, wild boar, bison, pheasant, hare, frog, wild bear, tiger, wild wolf, tortoise. Hydrology, 23 species of fish, 9 species of crustaceans, 7 species of shrimps, 5 species of crabs, and 3 species of cephalopods. Plants, 57 species of gymnosperms, 34 species of angiosperms, 49 species of ferns, 22 species of algae, 17 species of bryophytes, and 77 species of fungi. Minerals, iron ore, copper ore, silver ore, coal, rock ore. Special plants, 1,000-year ginkgo tree. Special resources, none. Special building, none. Introduction, the plain where plains and lakes coexist can develop planting, animal husbandry, fishery, and mining, and is extremely suitable for survival. Race, Tauren. Chief, none. Basic strength, 10. Basic physique, 10. Basic agility, 5. Basic wisdom, 3. Basic lifespan, 60 years old. Quantity, 300, male 50%, female 50%. Talent, master planter. When planting crops, there will be a chance to plant special crops. Explanation, the honest Tauren is extremely suitable for planting various crops, and at the same time powerful, is also an excellent candidate as a fighter. Farmer, 0. Hunter, 0. Chef, 0. Blacksmith, 0. Tailor, 0. Pharmacist, 0. Miner, 0. Lumberjack, 0. Architect, 0. Arms interface. You can use the belief value to transfer to the class. Arms, none. Special arms, none. Chen Yi looked at the God interface, and at first glance was attracted by the infinite evolution of power. Infinite evolution. What is that? I have never heard of anyone else having this thing. Seeing that it can trigger race evolution, Chen Yi couldn't help but feel excited. After 16 years of ordinary life, has my gold finger finally arrived? However, after gold finger has not been practiced, Chen Yi feels that he should not be so excited. Then Chen Yi began to analyze his God interface one by one. The newly opened plane and everything about him were truly reflected on it. The first is one's own priesthood. The God of harvest. As the name suggests, it is a priesthood related to harvest. No matter what you do, as long as you get a great harvest, it can be regarded as a bumper harvest. The power of harvest, Chen Yi thinks this is a very strong priesthood in the early stage. Because the resources in the early stage are the most scarce. Especially food. If there is a lack of food in the early stage, then the race will have no way to survive. Chen Yi is quite satisfied that he can obtain the priesthood of the God of harvest. Then Chen Yi looked at his own harvest plain. At this time, the harvest plain, which was about 500 square kilometers in size, was beautiful and beautiful. The plains are not only vast, but also rich in water resources and rich in products. Especially the black land that occupies a quarter of the entire plain. This is very suitable land for growing food, and it is very useful for Chen Yi's early development. And in that lake, fish and shrimp and other water are extremely rich, which can greatly relieve the pressure of survival in the early stage. The special plant, the 1,000-year-old ginkgo tree, is now located on the island in the center of the lake. The ginkgo tree exudes a very comfortable elemental atmosphere, and all the fish, shrimps and crabs around the island have gathered on the shore of the island. And the 1,000-year-old ginkgo tree is extremely huge, and it is full of ginkgo. These ginkgo biloba is rich in elemental power, and after eating, it will improve the perception of elements. Chen Yi couldn't help being a little excited. 1,000-year ginkgo trees can definitely create a large group of Tauren shamans. This is an extremely useful profession. Not only can heal injuries, but also increase friendly forces and weaken enemies on the battlefield. Chen Yi looked at his race. At this time, the 300 Tauren were gathered together. They were born from the mighty force that opened the plain just now. A race of wisdom that will inevitably appear after every deity is opened up. However, the wise races of each deity are not the same. Some are scavengers, some are wild boars, some are werewolves, and so on. These races cherish different degrees. There are 5 types: common, rare, epic, legend, and myth. But it's not that the rarer the better. The most common races, such as rat people, kobolds, etc., are extremely capable of reproduction. The Tauren of Chen Yi's race is a rare race, but the number is much smaller than that of ordinary races. Tauren's reproductive ability can give birth to 2 births a year, only one at a time. It's not as good as the average race like the rat-man kobold, which has 3 children a year, and 6 or 7 children per child. Of course, as the population increases, so does the consumption of resources. As for the final arms, Chen Yi has not yet created a sect in this Tauren. The Tauren has not yet developed a belief in himself. Therefore, he has no power of belief, and there is no way to switch arms. However, Chen Yi felt that he should let his Tauren evolve again. This infinite evolutionary power can evolve once a month, and there will be absolutely no limit to his own Tauren in the future. Afterwards, Chen Yi looked at the Tauren race. The Tauren race at this time, gathered together at a loss. The newly born Tauren has no basis for survival. Then, Chen Yi's voice came. "Believers, I am your Father God." The loud and deafening sound rang in Tauren's ears. That is a voice that only God can make. The Tauren people were all conquered by Chen Yi's supernatural power at this moment. The phantom of Chen Yi's face also appeared from the sky. Upon seeing this, the Tauren knelt to the ground one after another. "See Father God." Chen Yi looked at the Tauren, thinking in his heart. He was thinking about how to place these Tauren. In the early days, these Tauren were given a shelter from the wind and rain. Immediately afterwards, Chen Yi transformed into a square area and circled the Tauren in it. In the area circled by Chen Yi, there are forests in the west, lakes in the east, black land in the south, and mountains in the north. It is a very suitable place for initial development. The Tauren is most suitable for thriving here. Afterwards, Chen Yi looked at that power, which evolved infinitely. Now, he wants to evolve his own Tauren. The trigger condition is 10 push-ups. With a very simple trigger condition, Chen Yi then sent an oracle to all Tauren. "Everyone, all do 10 push-ups on the spot." Chen Yi's oracle command appeared in the minds of all Tauren people. A doubtful look appeared on the Tauren's face. Strange request. But after all, it was an order from the Father God, and all the Tauren started doing push-ups on the spot. 1, 2, 3, quote. 10. Finally, all the Tauren finished these 10 push-ups. Immediately, an extremely powerful force fell from the sky, turned into a strong light, and bathed all the Tauren. Immediately afterwards, all the Tauren began to grow taller, their muscles began to swell, their bones began to increase, and their skins began to become tougher. Strange blood-red stripes appeared on the skins of all Tauren. The violent breath spread. In the end, the height of the Tauren stayed in the range of 2.5 meters. The power of all Tauren bodies has been greatly enhanced. Chen Yi was prompted by the will of the plane at this time. Record: your Tauren did 10 push-ups, and his base strength increased 10 times. Record: your Tauren has awakened talent, Raging Blood. Raging Blood. After being injured, you will get a great attack power and attack speed bonus. For every 10% loss of vitality, the attack power increases by 10%, and the attack speed increases by 20%. Asterisk. When Chen Yi saw the introduction about violent blood, his eyes were a little straight. Too strong. This violent blood has made the Tauren the most powerful berserker. Call. Chen Yi calmed down. Then he looked at the Tauren's race interface. Race: Tauren. Chief: none. Basic strength: 100. Basic physique: 10. Basic agility: 5. Basic wisdom: 3. Basic lifespan: 60 years old. Quantity: 300. Male 50%, female 50%. Talent: Master Planter, Blood of Rage. Explanation: Tauren, the most powerful warrior candidate. Farmer: 0. Hunter: 0. Chef: 0. Blacksmith: 0. Tailor: 0. Pharmacist: 0. Miner: 0. Lumberjack: 0. Architect: 0. At this time, the basic strength of the Tauren has reached 100 points, and the strength is 10 times stronger than before. This is not just a simple superposition of strength. In terms of physical strength, 1 plus 1 is greater than 2. It can be said that a Tauren today can defeat dozens of Tauren in the past. The introduction about the Tauren has also become the strongest candidate for the fighter. Chen Yi is satisfied. Now these Tauren genes have changed, and even the offspring born will carry this bloodline. As for the Tauren, who have already evolved, if they want to evolve for the second time, they have to wait until the next month. By the time next month, Chen Yi didn't know what kind of evolution options would appear. Presumably, I won't let myself down. The top priority now is to allow these Tauren to establish a place to live and find food. And in the woods to the west, there are many fruit trees and many wild boars and wild rabbits. With the power of the Tauren now, wild boars can be hunted easily. Before that, let's set up a chief first. Otherwise, it will be a dish of loose sand that cannot be condensed into a rope. After scanning all the Tauren, Chen Yi found the difference in one of the Tauren. Name, Cain. Race, Tauren. Basic strength, 120. Basic physique, 10. Basic agility, 5. Basic wisdom, 3. Basic lifespan, 60 years old. Talent, master planter, blood of rage. Explanation, Tauren, the most powerful warrior candidate. The base strength actually reached 120 points. Far stronger than other Tauren. Presumably, the previous base strength was 12 points. After infinite evolutionary increase, it has now become 120 points. It is a good material to be a Tauren chief. Chen Yi thought of this and sent an oracle to all Tauren. From now on, Cain will be the chief of the Tauren and command all Tauren. Cain's order is my order, no one can violate it. After Chen Yi lowered the oracle, the Tauren knelt to the ground one after another. Follow the oracle of God the Father. Cain was kneeling in front of the Tauren. Thank you, Father God. Chen Yi nodded in satisfaction. From then on, he issued the oracle by himself and handed it directly to Cain. Subsequently, Chen Yi informed Cain of the work to be done next. The first is to let Cain lead the tribe to get food. After getting the food, it is the shelter. As the saying goes, if you want to get rich, you must cut down the trees. The 50 square kilometers of forest is the most precious wealth of the Tauren people in the early days. Of course, because there were no tools in the early stage, these Tauren could only cut trees with bare hands. Fortunately, the base strength of the Tauren has been increased by 10 times, as well as the violent blood talent. After smashing the hand to bleed, the efficiency of cutting trees will be greatly improved. At the same time, Cain will also appoint those life occupations to all Tauren. Blacksmiths, architects, hunters, farmers, etc. The so-called technical profession has a specialization, and everything that should be done is divided into good work, so that it can develop rapidly. After giving these 2 orders to Cain, Chen Yi pulled his consciousness away from the plane and returned to the classroom. Now is not the time to establish a sect, we must first let these Tauren survive. And now he has not yet condensed faith, the time flow rate of the harvest plane is the same as that of the main plane. However, after condensing faith, the time flow of the plane of harvest can be accelerated. After Chen Yi came back to his senses, he found that some people were already sober. Some people are immersed in their own plane, not knowing what they are doing. At this time, Chen Yi's deskmate looked at him triumphantly. Chen Yi, what race and priesthood did you get? Chen Yi didn't conceal it, and directly stated his race and priesthood. Tauren, the god of harvest. Upon hearing Chen Yi's words, Wang Kaixuan was a little surprised. Good guy, that Tauren is a rare race, and farming is a must, plus the priesthood of the god of harvest, you guys can be pretty good in the early stage. Chen Yi gave a ha-ha. It's okay, but what is your race and priesthood? Wang Kaixuan smiled triumphantly. My race is a rare winged human race, a priest, the god of the sky. Asterisk. Chen Yi couldn't help being a little surprised when he heard Wang Kaixuan say this. Unexpectedly, Wang Kaixuan actually got a race like the winged human race. This is an air combat race. Before the bow and arrow were created in the early stage, it was invincible to fight against people. However, against his own Tauren, this Wang Kaixuan's winged man is still not enough. With the powerful basic power bonus, even if one of his Tauren throws a stone, it has an effect comparable to a bullet. At this time, the classmates all woke up one after another, whispering to each other there, obviously because they were very curious about what race and priesthood others had acquired. Seeing this scene, the head teacher Johaji patted the table. Well, from now on, you are already a demigod. The most important thing next is to develop your believers, gather the power of faith, and ignite the sacred fire as soon as possible, so that you can be regarded as a true god. After speaking, Johaji, the head teacher, took out a stack of cards. These are all resource cards that are extremely useful for your early stage. There are 10,000 caddies of wheat seeds in them, which can be remotely distributed to your believers. The seeds should be planted as soon as possible. The food in the early stage is the most scarce. Johaji then put the resource card on the desk and asked everyone to pick it up one by one. At this time, a girl with weak literature and glasses stood up. Teacher. Johaji looked at the girl, and then asked, "What's wrong with Su Zaichao?" The girl named Su Zaichao said with some twist, "Teacher, my plains are all swamps, there is no way to grow wheat." When Su Zaichao said this, Johaji nodded. "The school will find a way for you." Then Johaji looked at other students. "Is there any plain that is not suitable for growing wheat? Tell them all, and the school will adjust the subsidized grain seeds." At this time, 2 other people in the class raised their hands. "Teacher, my plains are all deserts, and there is no way to grow wheat." "Mine is the ocean plain, there is no way to plant it." After the 2 people finished speaking, Johaji nodded. "Okay, the school will give you extra subsidies for special seeds, and the remaining students will come to the stage to get them." Chen Yi also received the 10,000 caddies of wheat seeds at this time. Seeing that the wheat seeds have been distributed, Johaji said, "Now that you have awakened your own plain, the school will hold a high school freshman competition in 1 month's time. You have to cultivate your own race. This time will not be used for class. And the top 10 will receive extremely rich rewards, especially the top 3, and even the existence of plain expansion cards." Hearing Johaji's words, some students have already started gearing up. "Believe that I will definitely be able to get a place in the high school freshman contest." At this time, Wang Kaishuan secretly said to Chen Yi, "Chen Yi, my wing human race will definitely get the ranking." Chen Yi nodded when Wang Kaishuan said this. "Yes, come on, I am optimistic about you." Indeed, Wang Kaishuan's wing human race is an extremely powerful air combat race, unless it encounters races similar to Batman and Dragonfly. Early Wang Kaishuan was invincible. Of course, after encountering Chen Yi, Wang Kaishuan's winged human race is nothing. But Chen Yi didn't say much. One's own evolutionary power must be hidden well. Now, it is better to develop your own Tauren as soon as possible. Go over there and help the women make a net. And you, go over there and help skinning. This wild bear's skin is really hard to peel. At this time, Tauren chieftain Cain was directing the Tauren to conduct large and small affairs. God the Father gave him such an important position as his greatest praise. The chief must be done well. And Chen Yi is watching the Tauren people. The Tauren now has a preliminary basis for survival. The first is to create a stone axe, which greatly improves the efficiency of cutting trees. In addition, the trees were processed into wood, and a preliminary tent was made from wood and leaves. The Tauren people already have their own tents. This has a great influence on the mood of the Tauren. With a tent and a home, you can feel comfortable and safe. As for food, in the early stage, it can rely on the surrounding wild animals and wild fruits to survive. Cain therefore arranged many hunters on the job distribution. The evolved Tauren is not afraid of the powerful beasts around him. The wild bear, wild wolf and tiger. After seeing the Tauren, he wanted to prey, and he was not afraid at all. Therefore, a Tauren who is not agile can easily obtain a large amount of meat. In addition, Chen Yi taught Cain how to drill wood to make fire, and use the campfire to make a lot of dried meat. There is no shortage of pre-food for the time being. And in that lake, fish, shrimp and crabs are very abundant, and now Cain is greeting some ingenious female Tauren, weaving fishing nets with vine fibers. In this way they can fish and catch shrimps. Chen Yi looked at the well-organized Tauren, and felt it was time to give the Tauren wheat seeds. Because the Tauren was struggling to survive, Chen Yi did not give seeds. But now that it has stabilized, the wheat seeds can be handed over to the Tauren. Then Chen Yi sent an oracle to Cain. At this time, Cain, who was commanding the tribe, suddenly heard Chen Yi's majestic voice. Cain fell directly on his knees and prayed piously towards the sky. Great harvest God, your people obey your oracle. The other Tauren saw the chief kneel down, and immediately followed suit. A pure white holy power has been produced around the bodies of Cain and the Tauren. That is the power of faith. But Chen Yi has not yet established a sect, and there is no way to use the power of these beliefs for his own use. It can only temporarily exist in the bodies of Cain and these Tauren. After the sect is established, all the power of faith can be collected. Chen Yi organized the language. My people, I have seen your hardships in my eyes. I have a group of magical seeds here, planted on the black soil in the south. Wait until autumn, and you will harvest countless foods. Cain's eyes suddenly burst into a great surprise. Seeds of food. This is a great reward for the entire ethnic group. Praise the God of harvest. May the world take your name holy. May you be strong forever, and may you be immortal forever. The power of faith around Cain's body has grown stronger. Chen Yi couldn't help but feel a little greedy when he looked at the power of faith. But now let these Tauren plant the wheat seeds as soon as possible. Afterwards, Chen Yi took out the resource card. Directly using his mind, the 10,000 caddies of wheat seeds in the resource card were put in front of the Tauren tribe. Neatly, a bag of 100 caddies, a total of 10,000 bags of wheat seeds, appeared in front of the Tauren people out of thin air. Seeing such a miracle, the Tauren suddenly cheered. Finally no longer have to worry about the shortage of food. The Tauren kowtow there. Praise you, the God of harvest, praise you, my father. Your people are always grateful. Your people will believe in you for generations to come. Chen Yi looked at the strong power of faith and felt that it was time to build a sect. Then Chen Yi lowered the oracle. This time the oracle was sent down to all Tauren. From now on, I will establish a sect in this land. The name of the sect is the Cult of Harvest, and you are all my believers. And Cain will be the pope of the religion. After Chen Yi finished speaking, an invisible wave was transmitted across the plain. Plainer will also recognizes the legitimacy of Chen Yi's religion. Those Tauren suddenly felt that they were closer to God. They prayed there one after another. Chen Yi could see that all the power of faith was collected by the will of the plain. And on the interface of his deity, there is also an additional sect interface. Sect interface. Sect, harvest, God sect. Sacred emblem of sect, 2 extremely plump ears of wheat cross on the sickle. Pope, Cain. Divine art, wild fury, inactive, wild force, inactive, reign of life, inactive. Believers Tauren. 300 mad believers. Faith 98,900, each million points of faith can condense 1 point of divine power. Looking at the belief value of nearly 100,000, Chen Yi was extremely excited. This means that oneself can finally gather faith and gather divine power. The day when the sacred fire is lit will be just around the corner. Soon, Cain greeted the other Tauren to fight back all the food to the Tauren camp. 10,000 caddies of wheat seeds are not a lot. Piled together, it is about the size of a tent. A Tauren can eat about 5 caddies of wheat for 1 day's ration. 300 Tauren, 1,500 caddies a day. It won't last for a few days at all. But these are seeds. Plant 1 millet in spring and harvest 10,000 seeds in autumn. All these 10,000 caddies of seeds are planted, and 1,000 acres of land can be sown based on the calculation of 10 caddies of seeds per acre. Especially planted on that very fertile, full of 187,500 acres of black land. With the blessing of the fertile black land and the power of harvest, 1 mu of land is enough to produce 2,000 caddies of grain. In all, 10,000 caddies of seeds can yield 2 million caddies of grain. This is only the first year. More and more seeds can be sown in the future. Cain looked at the vast black ground south of the camp with enthusiasm in his heart. But land reclamation is difficult. Not only must prepare enough food, but also prepare all kinds of wasteland reclamation tools. Axes, pickaxes, and various farm tools must be prepared. Before the wheat is immature, there will be a shortage of food, so some people must be assigned to hunt and gather. In the end, manpower is definitely not enough. But no matter what to do, Cain felt that as long as it was a difficulty, he would definitely be able to overcome it. Then began to assign work. Cain set up 5 hunting teams, each with 10 people, responsible for hunting every day. There are many wild animals on the plain of harvest, including wild boar, bison, pheasant, hare and so on. But these animals are not afraid of death like those tigers and wolves. When you see a tauren, you will run away frantically. Tauren's agility is not high, it is still very difficult to catch these animals. Therefore, bows and arrows must be made. The bow body is made of extremely tough sandalwood on the harvest plain, and the bowstring is made of the fascia of those wild bears and tigers. The arrow is made of bamboo, and the arrow can only be made of stone for the time being. After the assignment was completed, Cain asked the 5 hunting teams to make bows and arrows. Afterwards, Cain assigned jobs to all the women. These women are only responsible for gathering and fishing every day. Compared with male tauren, female tauren is weaker. And fishing and shrimp fishing is much easier than hunting, farming and reclaiming wasteland. In addition, there are a lot of wild vegetables and mushrooms, which are enough to maintain the current survival. Cain looked at the ginkgo trees on the small island in the middle of the lake, very greedy. But now there is no time to make ships, so I can only wait for the time when I have time. In the end, a total of 100 tauren including Cain were responsible for land reclamation. It is spring now, weeds and shrubs are flourishing, as well as the stones buried in the ground, all of which must be eradicated. Wasteland reclamation is a big project. But Cain wants to open up this 1,000 acres of land to plant wheat before the end of spring. Otherwise it will definitely affect the wheat harvest. Cain led the 99 tauren and worked for 3 full days to manufacture the agricultural tools needed for land reclamation. With the tools, the 100 tauren Cain went down to open up wasteland vigorously. With the blessing of the powerful basic force, Cain and the 99 tauren cultivated very quickly. Cultivate while planting land. The lush weeds are extremely tough, and the bushes are full of spikes. Some stones, especially gravel, need to be digging out with a stone pick. Under such conditions, the reclamation is extremely difficult. In normal times, a tauren's daily ration is 5 caddies of grain. But now that he is so busy and cannot rest all day long, the amount of food he needs to eat has almost doubled. But the hope in the eyes of the tauren people is getting more and more prosperous. Because they are well aware that these sufferings are only temporary, and the future is extremely bright. With the blessing of this state, the belief in Chenyi is also increasing day by day. Chenyi is very excited. As long as you gather 1 point of supernatural power, you can start time acceleration. 1 point of divine power can make the time ratio between the primary plane and the secondary plane reach 1 day to 1 month. This means that your tauren will develop faster. Soon, with 15 days before the freshman contest, Chenyi finally got 1 point of supernatural power. Chenyi couldn't wait, and directly activated the time acceleration with divine power. After a period of strange fluctuations, the time of the plane of harvest became faster. 1 day from the main plane, 1 month from the harvest plane. And the number of refreshes for unlimited evolution can only be done in the past 1 month on the main plane. However, Chenyi's will is immersed in the plane of harvest, and the time he feels is still a normal flow rate. Cain took the 99 tauren to work day and night, and finally completed the cultivation of the 1,000 acres before spring. At this time, Cain and the 99 tauren were so thin that their muscles were almost out of sight. Reclaiming wasteland is really too painful. Chenyi saw this scene and immediately used 100,000 points of faith to make up for all the tauren. Now these tauren's bodies are a bit deficiencies. I have to rely on these tauren to win the freshman contest. The 100 tauren who had recovered through the power of Chenyi's faith suddenly felt their bodies reached their peak state. Cain understands that these are all gifts bestowed by the great harvest god. Suddenly Cain fell to his knees. Praise you, the great god of harvest. Your grace will shine forever. The other tauren also knelt down and praised them. After an hour of prayer and praise, the Tau talents got up one after another. Cain looked at the 1,000 acres of cornfield with great pride in his heart. When autumn comes, the people of their own tribe will have food to eat. But before harvesting food, watering, pest control, weeding, and fertilization are indispensable. Fertilization is temporarily not used, because the black soil is extremely fertile. But there must be no mistake in the other 3 things. Watering can make poles and buckets to bring water from the lake in the east. Deworming can only be removed by hand. For weeding, stone shovel can be made. Cain then divided the 99 Tauren into 3 teams. There are 60 people in the watering team. The first weeding team has 20 people. The first deworming team consisted of 19 people. This is just a simple division, and the rest of the team is understaffed, so we have to help. Only by working together can we promote development. Tauren are inherently simple and natural, and have the talent of master planters, and are full of enthusiasm for farming. Then, according to Cain's classification, he made the barrel pole and other tools. Cain walked to the edge of the lake at this time. The ginkgo tree in the center of the lake is swaying with the wind, and the fruit looks very gratifying. Cain felt it was time to pick. This 1,000-year ginkgo tree blooms every 3 years, bears fruit every 3 years, and matures every 3 years. It took 10 years to reach the most delicious and effective point. But if you don't pick it, the fruit it bears will never fall, and no new fruit will bear. Cain greeted some female Tauren and went to the woodland to the west to cut wood suitable for boats. In the end, Cain chose a hollow tree. A hollow tree is similar to bamboo, but there is only one hollow section in the entire tree. The mature hollow tree is about the size of a Tauren's arm and 20 centimeters in diameter. In autumn, a coconut-like fruit will grow. After cutting down 50 hollow trees, Cain stopped. Greeting the other Tauren, dragging all the hollow trees to the lake, Cain decided to make boats on the lake. At this time, the lake is already full of vines that bind and fix the hollow trees. Some female Tauren are pulling out the fibers of those vines and twisting them into ropes. After finding a few ingenious female Tauren, Cain and those Tauren began to make ships. Rather than making a boat, it is better to make a raft, but this raft is large enough to hold a dozen Tauren on board, and it has reached the point of a boat. After making sure that the hollow trees did not leak, Cain used the rope twisted by the vines to firmly fix 2 sets of flat plates. A set of slabs are made of 25 hollow trees. Finally, the 2 sets of plates were superimposed together. When the slabs made of hollow trees are stacked together, they will produce great buoyancy on the water. Finally, the raft is made. This raft will take the Tauren to the center of the small island in the lake and pick the ginkgo fruit full of elemental flavor. In a burst of cheers. In the water. After lowering the raft into the lake, the raft floated extremely stably on the surface of the water. The other Tauren were attracted by the rafts launched into the water. Looking at the ginkgo tree in the distance, all Tauren understand that they can improve their food tonight. Cain first stepped on the raft, and the raft only swayed a few times when it went up, and then steadily carried Cain on the ground. Good. A huge cheer erupted from the bullhead crowd. Cain took over a paddle, and then said, "Come on, a few clever ones, let's go pick the fruit together." As soon as Cain's voice fell, there was a response from the crowd. "I come. I'll come. ... In a blink of an eye, 10 Tauren stood on the raft. The raft was almost completely submerged in the water. This is already the load-bearing limit of the raft. Cain then said, "A few people here are guarding by the shore, what should the others do?" After speaking, Cain propped up the oars and drove towards the small island in the center of the lake. After driving for about half an hour, Cain brought the Tauren to the island. Looking at the huge ginkgo tree, Cain and the 10 Tauren were extremely excited. Cain then issued the order. 8 of you, go pick fruit from the tree, and you 2 are responsible for transporting the fruit to the raft. When the raft is full, I will transport the fruit to the other side." "No objections," the other Tauren said in unison. "No," Cain nodded. "Then go ahead." Cain was driving the raft, swiftly carrying the fruit from the ginkgo tree. Probably a full 20 times have been transported, by this time it was already dark. Bonfires were lit on both sides of the river to guide Cain. After busy working until midnight, Cain transported all the fruits on the ginkgo tree to the Tauren camp. The fruit of this 1,000-year-old ginkgo tree is full of elemental power. As long as the outer skin is not damaged, it will not be damaged even if it is left for half a year. With the blessing of Chen Yi, the god of harvest, there is no damaged ginkgo fruit at all. This trip got a big harvest. After Cain brought the last fruit back, he picked up the 10 people who were still on the island. The Tauren has piled the fruits of the ginkgo tree in a huge wooden tent. Save some food, these fruits are enough to improve the ration of 300 Tauren for a month. All the Tauren were not sleepy, looking excitedly at the ginkgo fruits exuding elemental gleam. Cain clapped his hands at this time, and then shouted, Everyone, all gathered in front of me. Hearing what Cain said, all the Tauren gathered in front of Cain. After all, Cain is a Tauren chief appointed by God the Father. Under the light of the bonfire, Cain looked extremely majestic at this time. I decided that we will hold a grand sacrificial ceremony next. Thanks for the gifts brought by the God of Harvest. Hearing what Cain said, all the Tauren were silent. This should be the first time they offered sacrifices to their God Father. You can't be sloppy, Cain shouted at this moment. From then on, every time our tribe has a great harvest, we must sacrifice to our Father, the great harvest God. Cain pointed to two people at this time. You, and you, now go to the fruits of those ginkgo trees and select 100 fruits with the best quality. Hearing Cain's words, the two Tauren pointed at suddenly ran into the tent. This is a sacrifice to the Father God, and it must not be sloppy. On Chen Yi's side, he watched this sacrifice with great interest. When I was in junior high school, there was an introduction in the textbook. The races of the plains, after the establishment of the sect, will hold sacrificial rituals from time to time. Every time a sacrificial ceremony is held, it will bring a huge amount of faith. It is also a great help for improving ethnic cohesion. Good. I just don't know how much faith these Tauren will bring to themselves. At this time, the two people sent by Cain had already brought 100 ginkgo fruits. The fruits of the ginkgo trees are so full and crystal clear. Placed on a wooden pallet, it is extremely spectacular. He took a wooden overhead and placed the wooden pallet on the overhead. Cain drew the holy emblem on the ground in front of the elevated. 2 plump ears of wheat and a sickle. Then Cain took the lead and knelt down in front of the elevated and holy emblem. The Tauren behind all knelt down. There was a fanatical piety all over his face. Praise you, the great God of harvest. Asathos. Our Father God, our most beloved existence. Your gospel is spread all over the world. Your honorable name will be immortal. With the sound of constant prayers, countless powers of faith emerged from the Tauren. Looking at the power of faith, Chen Yi was extremely excited. Unexpectedly, such a sacrifice would actually produce such a huge power of faith. Cain opened his eyes at this moment. Great God of harvest, please accept our sacrifice. At this moment, Chen Yi saw this scene and directly caused the dazzling white light to be emitted from the holy emblem drawn on the ground. The Tauren people were extremely excited when they saw this scene. This means that their sacrifice has been seen by God the Father. On Chen Yi's side, he has also obtained the record information of the will of the plane. Record, your believer Tauren held a fanatical sacrificial ceremony. Record, your believer Tauren sacrificed 100 ginkgo fruits for you. Record, the racial cohesion of your believers Tauren has increased. Record, your believer Tauren provided you with 100,000 faith points. ... Seeing this scene, Chen Yi was extremely excited. There will be a few more such sacrifices in the future, and then I will soon be able to condense 1 point of supernatural power again. After being condensed, it opened up the wild anger in the God of Harvest. From then on, you can use this magical technique during the battle, and your combat effectiveness will be greatly enhanced. At this time, the Tauren people had already put away the tools used for the sacrifice. Looking at the ginkgo fruit in the tents, Cain waved his hand. Praise the God of Harvest, open your belly to eat tonight. Good. After speaking, the Tauren rushed into the tent. Holding a large pile of ginkgo fruits in each arm came out. Some of them had several stuffed in their mouths. Cain looked at the tent. At this time, most of the ginkgo fruit in the tent was left. Then I took a bunch of ginkgo fruit and ate it there. The fresh and sweet juice fills the mouth instantly. There is even a kind of magical power that enveloped Cain's body. But Cain still didn't understand what this power was. On Chen Yi's side, he also received the record of plain will. Record, your Tauren had a gluttonous feast. Record, your Tauren's perception of the elements has improved. Spring goes and autumn comes. 4 months passed. On Chen Yi's side, there are only 11 days left before the freshman contest. At this time, the 1,000 acres of wheat have all turned into yellow wheat fields. The grains of wheat are plump, and the ears of wheat almost bend the stalks. Cain, with all the male Tauren, was standing in front of the wheat field. Today is their harvest day. The other female Tauren are preparing food and clean water in the Tauren camp. Reaping is extremely labor-intensive. During this period of time, you can never lose money on what you eat. Cain looked at the wheat in front of him, feeling extremely excited. This 1,000 acres of land can harvest more than 2 million caddies of wheat, leaving 100,000 caddies of wheat as seeds, and there are 1.9 million caddies of grain. Enough for them to eat until the harvest next year, and never have to go hungry in the future. With a big wave of his hand, Cain roared, "It's cut the wheat." After speaking, 150 Tauren including Cain, holding wooden-handled and stone-bladed sickles, cut them up against the cornfield. Although this sickle is not sharp, it is nothing to the Tauren who has reached 100 points in basic strength. More than 300 acres can be cut in one day. Try to harvest all the wheat within 3 days. With the ups and downs of wheat waves, slices of wheat fell. The Tauren all exerted 12 points of strength. Finally I can eat food. Chen Yi was extremely excited when he saw this scene at this time. As long as the food shortage in the previous period has passed, then by the next year, a new population will be born. The more the population, the more faith. The speed of gathering divine power will be greatly accelerated. After 3 days of harvesting day and night, all the wheat was placed on a specially open square. It is said that it is a square, but it is actually the clearing of the felled woodland. The next step is to stroke the wheat ears and thresh them. Or threshing. The wheat of 1,000 mu of land can be threshed for about half a month before it can become edible grain. This is a job that requires patience and care. The female Tauren came in handy at this time. At this time, Cain took the male Tauren and looked for the quarry pit everywhere. Now it is time to build a mill. Processing wheat into flour and building a mill is an extremely critical step. The stone required for the grinding disc must be a whole piece of sandstone, which has extremely strong friction. Make the base, and then make the upper rotating grinding disc. An eye should be cut out on the upper grinding plate so that the wheat can be put in and grind into flour. Finally, in the high mountains to the north, the male Tauren led by Cain found the sandstone that could be used as a grinding disc. He struck desperately with a stone pick, and gradually knocked down the large piece of sandstone. Boom rumble. The stone rolled down the hillside, and several pieces were cracked on the way. The size of those rocks can just be polished into a grinding disc. Watching this scene, Cain laughed with satisfaction. "Chief, look at it." A Tauren pointed to the rocky wall that had just been knocked down, as if he had seen something. Cain leaned over and found that after the sandstone fell, a dark red stone wall appeared. The memory of inheritance emerged, and the Tauren people thought for a while and discovered that this was actually iron ore. An iron ore capable of making tools and weapons and armors. This is an extremely exciting discovery. In the future, stone axes, farm tools and sickles can all be replaced with iron axes and farm tools and sickles. And you can also cast iron pots, so the food will no longer be so dull. Thinking of this, all the Tauren were excited. Praise the god of harvest. What a great discovery, Cain muttered to himself. Then he said to all the bullheads, "Now let's go down the mountain and build the mill. This iron ore will wait until we are full." "Yes, chief." All Tauren people agree very much. What Cain said made sense. No matter what you are doing, you have to eat your stomach first. Afterwards, Cain led the Tauren back to the camp, carrying the large pieces of sandstone. At this time, the mill had built a huge shed out of wood, specially used to shelter from wind and rain. Looking at the sand rocks, Cain geared up. These sandstones are enough to make 5 millstones. In the next time, it will be well polished and stoned. With the passage of half a month, the 5 stone mills have also been polished out. All male Tauren have scars all over their bodies. This stone grinding is extremely laborious and labor-intensive. However, the stone mills were scattered all over the place at this time, placed in the wooden shed, which made people look extremely comfortable. Next to the wooden shed, 2 rain and windproof granaries have been built, one for stacking wheat and the other for stacking flour. Cain did not let the Tauren grind all the wheat into flour. When you eat it, take it out to dry and grind it, so that it can be stored for a longer time. In order to prevent moisture, Cain deliberately spread a kind of white stone around. These stones can well absorb rainwater and free moisture in the air at ordinary times. Things proceeded in an orderly manner, during which Cain held another grand sacrifice. This sacrifice continued to provide Chen Yi with 100,000 faith points. Chen Yi's belief value has reached 560,000, not far from 1 million cohesive power. With the stomach full, the iron ore matter has also been put on the agenda by Cain. After a period of recuperation, the Tauren people have returned to a state of vigor and vitality. Due to the talent of the master planter, some very large wheat seeds appeared in the 1,000 acres of wheat fields. These can be regarded as special crops. Cain asked the female Tauren to select them and use them as the next seeds. But now, it's time to mine iron ore. Prior to this, Cain had led the tribe to build a huge furnace. On the edge of the forest, the Tauren people found an open-pit coal mine, which is an extremely useful fuel for smelting iron ore. Carrying stone picks and baskets on their backs, the Tauren people arrogantly came to the mountain wall containing iron ore. Looking at the iron ore veins on the mountain wall, Cain first climbed up. Clan people, let's do it. ... Jingle bells. More than 200 Tauren were hitting the mountain wall, and pieces of iron ore fell from the mountain wall. Because of Chen Yi's harvest power, the iron content of these iron ore is very high. All have about 75% iron content. It is an excellent iron-rich ore. Tauren people eat fire-baked dough when they are hungry, and drink clean and boiled lake water when they are thirsty. Those Tauren who are not involved in mining are all making food and water. After a week of continuous mining, iron ore piled up like a hill piled up under the mountain. Cain felt it was time to smelt these iron ore into iron ingots. Afterwards, they greeted the tribe, carried baskets, and carried iron ore to the Tauren camp from basket to basket. The raging fire has also risen from the furnace at this time. Those are good coals mined in open-pit coal mines, and they can be burned with a single tap of fire. Under the action of the animal skin bellows, the temperature reached more than 2,000 degrees. Enough to smelt all these iron ore. Cain appointed 10 blacksmiths specializing in forging and smelting, and began smelting day and night. Pieces of iron ingots were produced from the furnace and eventually piled up together. It's as big as 2 houses. And a blacksmith made a mold out of clay, poured the molten iron slurry directly into it, and waited to cool down. It became an iron pot, sickle, axe, hammer, pick, etc., etc. The most primitive cast iron utensils appeared at this time. But one day, when Cain, holding a cast iron pickaxe, was collecting iron ore, the cast iron pickaxe was directly broken. Cain realized that the toughness of the cast iron pickaxe was insufficient and too brittle. You can only knock out the pickaxes one by one with a hammer. However, other cast iron utensils such as iron pots, axes, and hammers do not need to be forged. Only some specific ones, such as sickles, pickaxes, weapon armors, etc., need to be forged. Only in this way can performance and efficiency be maximized. Chen Yi nodded slightly at the enthusiastic Tauren. To this day, the Tauren tribe is considered to be on the right track, reaching the Iron Age. Living materials will become more and more abundant. For example, with the iron pot, the food of the Tauren people is more abundant. Some female Tauren have developed a way to put animal fat in an iron pan to deep fry the dough. The fried dough will be more crispy and delicious. And then, the most important thing for Tauren people is how to spend the winter. While reclaiming wasteland, we must also hunt to accumulate fur. Animal fur can help the Tauren people through this winter. Cain has set a task. Before the beginning of spring next year, another 9,000 acres of land will be reclaimed. With 10,000 acres of land, the annual grain output has reached 20 million caddies, enough for their ethnicity to thrive. Now that they have iron farm tools, the efficiency of reclaiming wasteland is very fast. Plus, it's already autumn and winter. The weeds and shrubs have turned yellow and their toughness is not as good as before. If the 150 Tauren were working day and night, it would take only half a month to cultivate 1,000 acres of land. So now, 150 Tauren can fully cultivate 9,000 acres of land before winter comes. The efficiency has been directly increased by more than 10 times. Iron farm tools greatly liberated productivity. Chen Yi had accumulated 1 point of supernatural power at this time, and then activated the Wild Fury of the Sect interface. Wild Fury, after using it, you will be immune to death within 5 seconds, and then you will die. Powerful. Chen Yi feels really strong. Immune to death within 5 seconds, combined with the violent blood of the Tauren, can burst out extremely powerful fighting power in these 5 seconds. However, after the effect of immunity to death has passed, it will die immediately, and this magical technique cannot be used at will. The current Chen Yi can't bear his own Tauren golden bumps. The death of one is a great loss to him. Fortunately, the plane projection is used in the newborn competition. When the time comes, his Tauren is not a god who blocks and kills the gods, but the Buddha blocks and kills the Buddha. Chapter 11. Finally, before the arrival of winter, the Tauren people have reclaimed all the 9,000 acres of wasteland. Wheat is an extremely hardy plant. Cain led the whole family and planted carefully selected wheat seeds on the 10,000 acres of black land. After planting, you don't have to worry about it, just wait for the spring of the coming year and follow the normal path. Weeding, insects, and watering are fine. The Tauren also put on thick fur coats at this time. These coats can help the Tauren people to withstand the cold in winter. Rui Shui Jiao prosperous year. Soon, the first snow also began to patter. The Tauren people now only need to nest in their own houses and light coal for heating. The plain of harvest at this time is already covered in silver and white snow. Chen Yi looked at the well-organized Tauren with great satisfaction. Then Chen Yi issued an oracle to Cain. Cain, you want to make 100 sets of iron armor and 100 long-handled battle axes. You must use the best materials. I will select 100 of the most elite fighters to go to the mysterious country to fight. Hearing Chen Yi's oracle, Cain quickly knelt down. Yes, the great god of harvest. After receiving Chen Yi's oracle, Cain went straight out. Standing in the center of the Tauren camp, he shouted, "People, don't nest in the house, come out quickly." After Cain finished speaking, the Tauren people walked out of the room one after another. Some Tauren have not put on their clothes yet. After all, winter is a good time to make people. Cain didn't care when he saw it. After all, only multiple births can expand the number of races. Then Cain shouted, "The great harvest god just issued an oracle asking us to make 100 sets of iron armor and 100 long-handled battle axes. Now, everyone is fully committed to forging armor and weapons." After speaking, the Tauren all walked to the furnace and forge. Boom! The flames of the furnace rose to the sky, melting all the snow nearby. On the forging platform, the forging of armor pieces and battle axes had already started clanging. After being beaten vigorously by the Tauren, the nails shone with silvery white light. This is the light that ironware will shine only when it tends to pure iron. Shows a great increase in purity. The pieces of armor needed to make armor are forged piece by piece, and tempered with ice water that is extremely suitable for tempering. Only the armor pieces forged in this way can have sufficient defense power. The battle axe, on the other hand, directly uses great power to strike a huge iron ingot against a long battle axe. The long-handled battle axe has a length of 2.8 meters, which is extremely suitable for weapons in the hands of a Tauren of 2.5 meters. The Tauren who struck the battle axe had a series of blood blisters on his hands. But the more injured, the faster the Tauren's speed and strength. After a full winter of forging in full swing, 100 gleaming long-handled battle axes and 100 sets of hard iron armor were manufactured. This armor is more difficult to build than the battle axe. It is divided into 7 parts: helmet, protective item, heart protective, battle armor, boots, knee pads, and arm guards. In any era, armor is regulated as a heavy weapon. A Tauren wearing armor is enough to defeat 10 Tauren without armor. This is the power of armor. The leather that links the armor is made of tiger leather and is extremely tough. Chen Yi looked at the armor and battle axe forged by the Tauren with satisfaction. This level is already the hardest and toughest state of ironware. The Tauren wearing armor and holding a battle axe is like a wild bull demon, majestic and majestic. Chen Yi saw this and understood that it was time to switch arms. The arms are divided into 2 categories, cavalry and infantry, and there are many branches in each category. For example, there are heavy cavalry, light cavalry, and so on. There are dragoons in the heavy cavalry, and wolf cavalry in the light cavalry. But now he has no wolves or dragons, so he can only choose infantry. In infantry, there are heavy loaded and light loaded types. This Tauren's body grid must be reinstalled. Chen Yi began to check. Among the heavy armored fighters, there are berserkers, great swordsmen, and so on. Chen Yi picked it up and felt that the berserker was the most suitable for the Tauren. Especially the talent and skills of that berserker. Chen Yi then selected the 100 strongest Tauren to be a berserker by looking at the basic attributes. Cain is the captain. Each conversion of a berserker costs Chen Yi 5,000 faith points. These 100 berserkers spent a full 500,000 faith points. But the gains this brings are also extremely gratifying. Arms berserker. Basic attribute bonus, strength plus 30 points, constitution plus 50 points, agility plus 30 points. Active skills, whirlwind, heavy blow. Passive talent, fury of the mad war. Whirlwind. Wielding weapons, sweeping the battlefield like a whirlwind, consuming a certain amount of energy. 50% bonus to attack power. Heavy blow. Unleash your full power and give the enemy a fatal blow. Consume a lot of energy. Attack power bonus is 100%. The fury of the mad war. The stronger the battle, the stronger the battle. For every loss of 1% of vitality, attack power increases by 1%. Chen Yi then saw information about the will of the plane. Record, your Tauren talent. The blood of violent war and the fury of violent war can be fused, whether they are fused. Chen Yi couldn't help being a little surprised after seeing it, but didn't expect it could be like this. Of course, I chose to merge. Fusion. Record, your Tauren talent. The blood of rage and the fury of rage have merged. Record, furious blood and furious fighting fury merge into a new talent, furious blood fury. Furious blood fury. For every loss of 1% of vitality, 2% of attack power and 2% of attack speed are increased. Asterisk. This. Chen Yi was surprised. I didn't expect that the talent after fusion would be so strong. If the Tauren is dying, and the Wild Fury is activated at the same time, wouldn't it increase the attack power and attack speed by 200%? The more Chen Yi thinks about it, the more he thinks this is feasible. The 100 Tauren who were converted by Chen Yi suddenly felt that their physical strength, speed, and physique had all been greatly enhanced. Arms Tauren Berserker. Power. 130. Physique. 60. Agility 35. Wisdom 3. Skills, whirlwind, heavy blow. Talent, fighting madly with blood and fury. Time passed quickly. It's the late summer season of the second year of the harvest plain. At this time, the 10,000 acres of wheat fields once again ushered in a bumper harvest. This bumper harvest is enough for the Tauren people to eat for 10 years. It can be said that the Tauren completely got rid of the threat of famine. Never worry about food anymore. And because of the fruits of last winter, all female Tauren gave birth to Tauren at this time. After giving birth, some female Tauren became pregnant again. The number of ethnic groups is too small now, and it is necessary to have more children in a variety of places. The Tauren believes in monogamy. Every Tauren has a happy smile on his face, because they have their own offspring. Moreover, the Tauren can be considered an adult when he is 10 years old, and he will be a new labor force in a few years. As usual, Cain once again held a sacrificial ceremony for Chen Yi. Chen Yi's belief value, at this time, once again condensed 1 point of supernatural power. But Chen Yi intends to survive, preparing himself to ignite the sacred fire. The current Tauren is extremely powerful, and Chen Yi doesn't need to use the second magic technique. It has been a month since the main plane was last notified of the freshman competition. Chen Yi's unlimited power has evolved, and the number of times has been refreshed again at this time. Power Unlimited Evolution. This month's evolution trigger condition is 20 squats. Chen Yi immediately lowered the oracle. All Tauren all got the news. All sit in place for 20 squats. Cain and the other Tauren were full of surprises. Because after the last oracle, the strength of the people of his own tribe has been greatly strengthened. I just don't know what will be strengthened this time. Then, whether it was a pregnant female Tauren or a newly born calf Tauren, all began to sit up and squat. Suddenly an extremely powerful light descended again. This light is constantly transforming the genes of the Tauren, even the Tauren still in his stomach is undergoing transformation and evolution. The light faded. The Tauren felt that his body's endurance and vigor had all increased. This time the enhancement is the physique of the Tauren. If you used to take a break after working for an hour, now you will feel tired after 20 hours of continuous work. And Chen Yi also received the news here. Record, your Tauren has been evolved, and your basic physique has increased by 20 times. Record, your Tauren has awakened a new talent, Barbarian Fighting Body. Bull Fighting Body, increase basic defense by 80%, magic resistance by 40%, and basic health restoration by 50%. Then Chen Yi looked at the panel of the Tauren. Race, Tauren. Chief, Cain. Basic strength, 100. Basic physique, 200. Basic agility, 5. Basic wisdom, 3. Basic lifespan, 60 years old. Quantity, 450. Talent, Master Planter, Blood of Rage, Bull Fighting Body. Explanation, the Tauren with strong endurance, the most powerful candidate for the battle tank. Farmer, 34. Hunter, 7. Chef, 33. Blacksmith, 10. Tailor, 67. Pharmacist, 21. Miner, 60. Lumberjack, 14. Architect, 17. Magic resistance. Chen Yi looked at Barbarian Fighting Body and fell silent. This is simply too strong. Basic defense is nothing, and equipment can be used to make up for the lack of defense. Basic life recovery can also be said to have enhanced endurance and recovery capabilities. But magic resistance, this is an extremely rare attribute. Especially in the later stage, all kinds of magical powder appeared on the stage. There is no magic resistance, there is no way to fight against those magical creatures. If you want to get magic resistance, you have to get the transfer scroll enchanter of the epic spine. Let the Tauren who have become an enchanter enchant armor and weapons. But the enchanter transfer scroll is too expensive. With Chen Yi's current financial resources, there is no way to get it. Good. Chen Yi calmed down his excitement. After all, if these Tauren get specific enchanting equipment, it is possible even if they are immune to magic. Chen Yi pulls his consciousness away from the plane of harvest. At this time, Chen Yi lives in a high school dormitory, and now he is the only one left in the entire dormitory. Tomorrow is the freshman competition, and he believes that he can definitely get a good ranking. Chen Yi is not sure that he can get the first place. Because I don't have the resources of my parents. The resources that those students with good family conditions get are beyond Chen Yi's imagination. That is, infinite evolution gave Chen Yi the courage to compete for rankings. But Chen Yi firmly believes that if he continues to train the Tauren, he will be able to evolve the Tauren to an unimaginable level. For that day, Chen Yi is looking forward to it. Asterisk. Soon, it was time for the freshman competition. Teachers, freshmen, and some parents of students all came here. After all, it is the first competition for their children, and some parents are very concerned about their children's performance. At this time, 10 arenas have been set up on the school playground. Those arenas are all reduced planes. Sitting on the battle chairs on both sides, you can project your own planes race onto that reduced plane. There are about 10 classes in the high school, and each class has one arena. These 10 arenas continue to fight, and it will take 3 days at the earliest to contend for the championship. The first day is to start the first round of elimination. Chen Yi has reached the class team here, Zhou Haji is organizing the team, and then he will draw lots to play. Seeing Chen Yi, Wang Kaixuan beckoned directly. Hi Chen Yi. After Chen Yi heard it, he walked over. Well, how are you doing? Upon hearing Chen Yi's words, Wang Kaixuan gave a hey smile. Fortunately, my winged human race has been transferred to a spear thrower in line with the priesthood of my sky god. I have more than 300 spearmen. Chen Yi, yours. Chen Yi nodded. Wang Kaixuan's winged human race was a wise choice to become a spearman. My Tauren changed his job to a berserker. When Chen Yi said this, Wang Kaixuan was a little surprised. Chen Yi, your Tauren racial talent is not suitable for berserkers, right? The combination of racial talents like werewolves and tigers is perfect. Chen Yi smiled. I can't tell the talent of my Tauren. After all, this matter is too unthinkable. Then Chen Yi said, I know, but there is an iron ore on my plane, which is used to make armor and weapons. Hearing Chen Yi talking about iron ore, Wang Kaixuan was full of envy. Let me go, Chen Yi, you are lucky, my wingman spearman still uses wooden sticks to tie stones. Chen Yi couldn't help being a little surprised. Wang Kaixuan's family conditions are pretty good, and he doesn't even have a resource card for iron ore. As if seeing Chen Yi's doubts, Wang Kaixuan said, my dad refuses to support me, saying that he wants me to fight steadily, and he won't give me any subsidies until the fire is lit. Having said this, Wang Kaishuan couldn't help but look to the sky. It's not easy to gather 100 points of divine power to light a divine fire, but I want to be a man of the highest God. Seeing Wang Kaishuan, who had suffered from secondary to disease, Chen Yi couldn't help but roll his eyes. Now this Wang Kaishuan really is. Without waiting for Chen Yi to complain, Zhou Heji in front of the team has already brought a lot of small cards. Students, now we are drawing lots. Our ring is the 10th ring. The next step is for the students in our class to play against each other. Friendship is first, match is second. Don't be discouraged if you lose. After Zhou Heji finished speaking, he distributed the small cards in his hand one by one. When it was Chen Yi and Wang Kaishuan's turn, Chen Yi's was number 41, and Wang Kaishuan's was no. 42. According to the rules of the game, Chen Yi will play against no. 16. Wang Kaishuan had already shouted at this moment. Who is number 17? Let's fight. Upon hearing Wang Kaishuan's words, a mature student raised his hand. Wang Kaishuan, my Tai Xiaojun will fight you. Seeing Tai Xiaojun, Wang Kaishuan walked over. And Chen Yi has also raised his hand. I am number 41, who is number 16? At this time, a girl with eyes and weak writing raised her hand. Chen Yi looked up and found that it was Su Zichao in the original class who said that his plane was swampy. Then Chen Yi walked over. Please give me some advice. Su Zichao nodded and didn't say much. Usually in the class, she and the boys don't talk much. Chen Yi didn't care either. At this time, number 1 and number 26 have already started a battle. No one is a student who usually has a hot temper. His race is a group of jackals with short knives in leather armor. The number is about 200, which looks extremely cruel. On the opposite side are a group of blue-skinned murlocs with rocks in their hands. There are more than jackals, about 3,000 in number. From a quantitative point of view, the number 1 seems to be lost, but in terms of single combat power, the jackal completely exploded the blue murloc. Oh la la la! The 3,000 blue fish people rushed towards the 200 jackals with rocks in their hands. There was a bloodthirsty light in the eyes of the jackals. Even if they encountered blue-skinned murlocs far more numerous than them, the jackals did not show the slightest timidity. The short knife in his hand was shining with cold light, and he rushed towards the drowsy blue murloc. The stones in the hands of the blue-skinned murloc could not cause effective damage to the gnoll, but only scratched the gnoll a little. But the jackals raised their swords and fell, and the blue-skinned murlocs were hacked to death by the jackals. The blood splashed on the body of the jackal, which further aroused the ferocity of the jackal. The short knife in his hand almost danced into a ball. Jackals with iron tools are really invincible. The head teacher Zhou Heji nodded slightly when he saw this scene. These wolves are very good, they forged iron tools in just 1 month. With the fall of the last blue murloc, the battle also came to an end. Student number 1 wins. Asterisk. Time passed by every minute and every second. Soon it was Chen Yi and the girl named Su Zichao. Sitting on the battle chair, Chen Yi felt that the battle chair gave him a magical power. Able to project the race of one's own plane onto the reduced plane. At this moment, Su Zichao was already sitting on the battle chair. Take the lead in summoning his own race. Swamp Lizardman. The skin was khaki yellow, and the skin was covered with wrinkles. This is a rare race with a strong basic agility. The talent to adapt to the environment can also allow these lizardmen to change their skin color at will. But these swamp lizardmen were all yellow and thin, and their muscles were not obvious. What's more, he holds wooden sticks in his hands, and he wears leaves as well. Obviously, there is no change of arms, and the combat effectiveness looks extremely weak. The plane of the number 10 ring was a grassland, and about 200 lizardmen stood on the grassland at a loss. Chen Yi looked at Na Su Zichao and felt that he was bullying her by releasing the Tauren berserker. But the game still has to be played. Afterwards, Chen Yi projected his 100 fully armed Tauren berserkers onto the grassland plain. When the Tauren, wearing silver white iron armor and holding a cold light long-handled battle axe, appeared in that plain with a height of 2.5 meters, everyone was shocked. The head teacher Zhou Heji's eyes widened. No, is this still a Tauren? How did it become so mighty? And that iron armor, cold light battle axe. Is it something you, a demigod who has just awakened from the plane, can obtain? This is simply a fantasy. Zhou Heji knew Chen Yi's life experience and didn't believe that these things would be given to him by his elders. It seems that Chen Yi's plane got some adventure. Some people who have just awakened will have unknown ancient buildings in the plane. There may also be treasures in these special buildings. There was a lot of discussion in the class. What exactly is Chen Yi's family? Isn't it impossible for a Tauren to be more than 1.8 meters tall? How did it become so fierce? I'm going, it shouldn't be a mutant race. What do you want? The mutant race must at least be something that the middle god can do. We demigods still mutate, so just don't starve our race to death. Shouldn't your focus be on the armor and weapons of Chen Yi's Tauren? Yeah, in just 1 month, how can I get so many armored weapons? I know that my race still uses stone tools. Nothing is impossible, but I heard that other classes have enchanted equipment bestowed by elders. What? Enchant equipment? How rich should that be? Who knows, the resource cards of the enchantment level are revealed, and it is less condensed by the upper gods that consumes divine power. I'm jealous. Don't be envious, who can make people have a good father? Haha, yes, reincarnation is a technical job. Watch the game and watch the game. After some discussion, all the students felt that Chen Yi should be bestowed by his elders, or left by his deceased parents. Wang Kaixuan's face was full of resentment. Chen Yi, it's hard for me to lie to you, your race has ironware, and it looks so good. In the grassland plain, Cain looked at the surrounding environment and suddenly understood that God the Father had summoned them into this world. The 200 lizardmen with sticks in their hands also appeared in Cain's sight. Cain then raised the battle axe in his hand and shouted at the Tauren berserker behind him, "Clan people, it's time to make contributions. Kill me." After speaking, Cain stepped forward and ran towards the lizardmen. Exist. The Tauren behind him also roared and rushed towards the lizardmen. Kill. 100 Tauren berserkers. Their armor clinked when they were running, it sounded like wild beasts rushing. The 200 lizardmen holding wooden sticks looked at the Tauren berserkers who rushed forward, and their calves couldn't help but turn a little. God, what kind of place is this? The Tauren berserkers came to the front of the lizard people in a blink of an eye. Under the threat of death, the lizardmen all abandoned their cowardice. He picked up the wooden stick in his hand and knocked it towards the Tauren berserker who was covered in steel armor. Dang dang dang. The wooden stick knocked on the iron armor had no effect at all, and some lizardmen's wooden sticks were even broken. When the Tauren berserker saw this scene, he couldn't help laughing. I didn't expect the enemy I encountered to be so weak. The long-handled battle axe in his hand suddenly danced into the wind, and immediately chopped off the lizardmen in front of him. Countless pieces of meat were flying in the air, and the Tauren berserkers became more and more courageous, blood-covered in armor. It was almost a one-sided slaughter, and those lizard people could not fight back. Seeing this scene, all the students held their breath. The heart could not help but plop. An idea came out of my mind uncontrollably. What happens if your race meets Chen Yi's Tauren? I'm afraid the ending will not be much better. Asterisk. Su Zichao's face turned pale at this time. Chen Yi's Tauren left her very impressive. I am afraid that even a Tauren can kill all of her lizardmen. It is terrible. Chen Yi had already retracted the projection of the Tauren at this time, and the Tauren on the plane would only feel like having a dream. When he came off the court, Wang Kaixuan directly gave Chen Yi a big hug. Then looked at Chen Yi. Good boy, honestly, what is going on with these Tauren? Chen Yi gave a ha-ha. Oh, that's it. Hearing that Chen Yi was unwilling to tell the truth, Wang Kaixuan did not ask too much. I'm afraid you will be the first student this time. I heard that this time the freshman's first bonus plane expansion card and mount race Kodoman. Kodo. The plane expansion card. Chen Yi knows that it can expand the plane, even the lowest level can expand by 100 square kilometers. I heard that the school's reward is a plane expansion card that can expand 500 square kilometers. But Chen Yi doesn't know this Kodo. Seeing Chen Yi's doubts, Wang Kaixuan immediately said, Chen Yi, do you remember the Encyclopedia of Mount Races? Chen Yi remembered. At that time, it was the extracurricular books that the school asked to buy, so I didn't buy it because I didn't have any money. It seems that Wang Kaixuan saw it from the Encyclopedia of Mount Races. At this time, Wang Kaixuan took out a book from his arms. It is the Encyclopedia of Mount Races. Wang Kaixuan threw it to Chen Yi. Just on page 273, take a look, I'm going to the game. Chen Yi nodded. Thanks. Wang Kaixuan had already gone to the ring at this time. On Chen Yi's side, it turned to page 273, and the introduction about the kodoman also appeared on it. Kodo is a kind of herbivorous animal with a huge appetite and docile temperament. In adulthood, the body can reach 10 meters in length and 3 meters in height. It is a rare mount race, a behemoth with infinite power. Can be used as a means of transportation, can also be used as a mount. Used to train Kodo knights. Looking at the Kodo with long horns on his head, Chen Yi couldn't help feeling extremely fond of it. This Kodo must be decided by himself. If the Tauren gets this Kodo behemoth, his strength will definitely increase. And it can also liberate a lot of labor, allowing Chen Yi to convert more Tauren berserkers. Take the Mount Race Encyclopedia back into his arms. At this time, Wang Kaixuan's winged spearman had already knocked down the opposing catman. Cat people belong to an ordinary race and are naturally agile. Good material for assassins. But no matter how agile, there is no way to deal with the winged spearman in the sky. He was easily thrown by the winged spearman with a spear and all stabbed to death on the grassland. Wang Kaixuan walked off the court with ease. Looking at Chen Yi. Well, my winged spearman is still good, right? Chen Yi nodded. Not bad. Hey hey. The two talked about a conversation and looked up to the ring. Now the first round is coming to an end. There are a total of 50 people in the class. The next step is to select the 25 winners to continue to the second round. Because of 25 people, one person can be taken by. Soon the first round was over, and Zhou Heji initiated the card. Chen Yi looked at the number 25 card in his hand and couldn't help but smile knowingly. It seems that the head teacher also knows that his Tauren is too strong. Go straight to the third round. Wang Kaixuan looked at the card number in Chen Yi's hand and couldn't help but yelled. Chen Yi, you are lucky. Chen Yi smiled. Luck, luck. Wang Kaixuan's hand is number 1, and he is playing number 24. It's going to be the ring again soon. Wang Kaixuan came to the arena, and both sides released their own races. The race of student number 24 is a boar. The boar man was tied up with animal skin armor, his body was fat, and he looked strong in defense. Especially the huge head, the 2 rows of fangs looked extremely cruel. The boar chief was more than twice the size of the other boars. It is almost 3 meters high. Seeing this scene, Wang Kaixuan couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, his winged human race can fly. If it is a land race, it may be torn to pieces by those wild boars directly. The student number 24 obviously trusts the strength of his wild boar. Even when he saw Wang Kaixuan's winged human race, there was no panic in his eyes. Student number 24 is named Huang Yilong, and his family is very rich. This time, in order to deal with the air combat race, Huang Yilong's home specially prepared 100 iron bows for Huang Yilong. At this time, Wang Kaixuan looked at the wild boars with a smile, thinking about how to order these winged men to tease these wild boars. Don't know where they came from, all those wild boars took out iron bows and steel arrows. Facing Wang Kaixuan's winged human race, the flying steel arrows formed an arrow rain, directly shooting Wang Kaixuan's winged human race to kill most of them. Wang Kaixuan panicked, and immediately ordered his winged human race to throw the spear in his hand. But those sharp stone spearheads, in the leather armor that touched the wild boar, could no longer be pierced for less than an inch. Soon, the second round of arrows rained swiftly towards the remaining wingmen of Wang Kaixuan. There was a rain of blood in the sky, and the body of the wingman kept falling from the sky. Wang Kaixuan, lose. Wang Kaixuan was defeated simply and neatly. Some even couldn't believe it in his eyes. Is his winged human race so weak? Desperate to leave the ring, Chen Yi stepped forward and patted Wang Kaixuan on the shoulder. It's okay, it's just a temporary loss. Upon hearing Chen Yi say this, Wang Kaixuan nodded. Yes, Chen Yi, you must avenge me. Chen Yi narrowed his eyes to look at the boar men with bows and arrows. This is a transfer to an archer. A unit that can use both bows and arrows and spears. But Chen Yi, the boarman chieftain, did not see what kind of unit he was transferred to. At this time, the classmates were all admiring. After all, Iron resource cards are extremely precious. Especially this iron tire bow, each one is worth tens of thousands of coins. Huang Yilong had already walked back to the class at this time. Some female classmates around have begun to cheer. Huang Yilong, come on, you are the best. Huang Yilong is so amazing. If there is such a boy as a boyfriend, it feels really good. Hearing the compliments of those girls, Huang Yilong couldn't help but cocked his mouth. Looking at Chen Yi, who was still talking to Wang Kaixuan, a trace of contempt could not be seen in his eyes. It's just the inheritance left by my parents. The first place in these 10 classes is definitely mine. No, the first place among high school freshmen is definitely mine. Chen Yi couldn't help but feel a sense of hostility at this time, and then his eyes met Huang Yilong. After staring at each other for a few seconds, the two staggered. Chen Yi understood that Huang Yilong definitely regarded himself as an enemy. But I wouldn't let him. Such a boy, who has lived prosperously since he was young, has been spoiled by his family, and naturally wants to follow him. When the time comes, I will educate the children for his parents. At this time, the second round of screening has also passed. Now the whole class includes Chen Yi, and a total of 13 students have been promoted. The students in the third round are the leaders in the class. Soon the third round of draws began. But what surprised Chen Yi was that he had a bye again. Wang Kaixuan's eyes widened when he saw Chen Yi's luck. I'll go, Chen Yi, your luck is too good. Chen Yi laughed. Luck, just luck. There was also some surprise in his eyes. After all, it had been twice in a row. The teacher in charge can't put water like this either. After the lottery was drawn, the sky was already dark. After nearly 100 matches, the time is not too early. Zhou Heji shouted at this time, everyone is disbanded now, and we will gather here at 9:30 tomorrow. Hearing Zhou Heji's words, all the students dispersed. At this time, Wang Kaixuan asked Chen Yi, do you want to make a string together? Chen Yi shook his head. No, I'll still prepare for tomorrow's game now, so as not to overturn the boat in the gutter. Upon hearing Chen Yi say this, Wang Kaixuan nodded. Well, that's fine. Then I will go home first. Chen Yi nodded slightly. Okay, see you tomorrow. Well, see you tomorrow. Then Chen Yi went back to the school dormitory. At present, no one of the school students wants to live in the dormitory, because the conditions are really poor compared to the home. Therefore, Chen Yi ended up in peace and comfort. Tomorrow's game will definitely meet Huang Yilong, and Huang Yilong will definitely use the iron bow. Then my Tauren's steel boots are about to be changed. Even if the Tauren is not afraid of death, the more he gets injured, the more fierce he gets, but he can't get injured in vain. Chen Yi then immersed his consciousness in the plain of harvest. Cain was convening a meeting with the tribe. It was about what was projected onto the prairie plain just now. The Tauren berserkers are bragging. Father God projected our consciousness onto a huge grassland with incredible power, and faced the vicious lizard people. Those lizard men are fierce and evil. The sticks in their hands are almost as big as a big tree, and one stick can smash a deep hole in the ground. What the Tauren said, the rest of the Tauren who had not participated in the war were stunned. Then the Tauren said again, but who are we? We are berserkers, and rushed over with the battle axe in our hand. Those lizard men are tough, but we are more powerful, and we directly chop off the heads of those lizard men with a battle axe. Good. Hearing this, all the Tauren around clapped. Cain was also blushing at this moment. Are those lizard men really that powerful? He didn't think. At this time, Chen Yi's oracle had come to Cain's mind. Cain, there will be a fierce battle next. The enemy will have a very strong bow and arrow. Let's make some lighter shoes. Hearing Chen Yi's words, Cain quickly knelt down. Yes, the great god of harvest. After Chen Yi issued the oracle, Cain then looked at the Tauren around him. Now, everyone follows me to find materials for making light shoes. Upon hearing Cain's words, the Tauren suddenly understood that it was the Father God who gave the order again. Yes, Patriarch, asterisk. Soon, the Tauren searched all over the mountains and found a lot of materials suitable for making lightweight shoes. Animal skeletons, vines, leather, etc. All were placed in front of Cain. Cain carefully selected. Since Godfather said to be light, he must have shoes that increase speed. This animal skeleton can't, stubborn feet. Neither can vines, it's weird to step on them. Leather, it's light and strong to wear. Soon, Cain sifted through various materials and selected leather as the material for the new boots. The tailors were hired, and the tailors began to make new types of combat boots. Time passed quickly. In order to make 100 pairs of boots made of leather, these Tauren tailors worked day and night. In half a month, the tailors made the 100 pairs of leather boots. Cain squeaked extremely comfortably in the new leather boots. Well done. Then Cain ran off with the Tauren berserkers. Since there are extremely strong long-range bows and arrows, speed is definitely the most important thing. As long as those enemies are killed before they draw out their bows and arrows, the damage from those arrows can be completely avoided. But the Tauren is not good at speed and suffers a lot from these long-range attacks. However, there is armor protection, which can temporarily block those arrows, as long as they rush to fight with those enemies in close quarters before the arrows penetrate the armor. In close combat, the Tauren berserker has never been afraid of anyone. The main plain, by this time, it was already daylight. Chen Yi checked the time, it was already 8:30. Then he went out. I went to the school cafeteria and ate a few meals, and then came to the school playground early. At this time, there were already a few scattered people waiting in the class. Wang Kaixuan had already arrived at this time. After seeing Chen Yi, he said hello. Arrived so early. Chen Yi nodded. At this time, Wang Kaixuan said mysteriously, I heard today that I am going to compete for the first place in each class, and I will compete for the top 3 tomorrow. After Chen Yi heard this, he was not surprised. Seeing Chen Yi's lack of interest, Wang Kaixuan said, I heard that the reward for the first place has increased again. It was originally not a plain expansion card and a rare mount race Kodo. Chen Yi nodded. Yes. At this time, Wang Kaixuan said, the new rewards have been increased again. I heard that it is a special vice professional enchanter transfer scroll. Hearing Wang Kaixuan's words like this, Chen Yi was a little uncomfortable. This enchanter transfer scroll is extremely precious and can be compared to that plain expansion card. How could the school issue such a precious reward? Wang Kaixuan smiled. I heard that the principal's son is also in the ranks of freshmen this year. After hearing Wang Kaixuan's words, Chen Yi had no doubts. It turned out to be like this. It seems that the principal wants to reward his children with fairness. In this way, I am afraid that the racial strength of the principal's son is a bit extraordinary. Chen Yi asked at this time, do you know the race and priesthood of the principal? Wang Kaixuan leaned close to Chen Yi's ear. The priesthood is the god of thunder, and his race is the epic troll race. Hearing Wang Kaixuan's words like this, Chen Yi was shocked. This troll clan is extremely powerful in nature, and the height of an adult is enough to reach 4 meters. His 2-meter and 5-meter Tauren seemed a little undersighted. And the principal will definitely spend a lot of resources to train his son. Thinking of this, Chen Yi was a little worried. He didn't know whether his Tauren berserker could stand it. At this time, Wang Kaixuan patted Chen Yi on the shoulder. Even if you only get the top 10, it's pretty good. There is a plain expansion card of 100 square kilometers. Chen Yi understood that Wang Kaixuan was comforting himself and nodded. Well, I got it. Don't worry, I'll still fight against Huang Yilong with all my strength now. Wang Kaixuan smiled. That Huang Yilong wild boar is not enough to see in front of your Tauren. Chen Yi shook his head. You can't be proud. No matter what enemy you are fighting against, you have to use 12 points of energy. After waiting for almost half an hour, the team of Class 10 has been sorted out. The head teacher Zhou Heji blew his whistle at this time. Now the third round of selection. Chen Yi did not play because of a bye. Huang Yilong was the first one to play. This time his wild boar was against a student who was full of kobolds. The rarity of kobolds is ordinary, and many people have acquired kobolds. In addition, kobolds love mining by nature, making them an excellent miner. Therefore, many gods will cultivate some kobolds on their own plains to mine. But fighting with kobolds was an extremely stupid decision. 1,000 kobolds were barking around there, all holding stone mining picks in their hands. And the kobold patriarch is holding the only iron or pickaxe in the whole clan. Huang Yilong didn't look right at those kobolds at all. The combat effectiveness of these kobolds does not seem to be on the same level as his boars. There is no need to look at it at all, the opposite of this game will definitely be defeated. But as soon as the game started, the opposite student directly raised their hands. I surrender. The ending is not unexpected. Zhou Heji then said. Wang Bing surrenders, Huang Yilong wins. Asterisk. Seeing the scene before him, Wang Kaishuan couldn't help feeling a little contemptuous. This kid, he surrendered without resisting, so timid. Chen Yi smiled. I'm afraid this Wang Bing is not to protect the mental health of his kobolds. If they die more often, I'm afraid those kobolds will go crazy. Wang Kaishuan also figured out this joint. Although the real bodies of those races did not come here, it was the souls that had descended. No matter what you do, it will stay true to your memory. So will the memory of death. Soon, the third round of the game was over. Including Chen Yi, a total of 7 people were qualified for the 4th round of promotion. But to everyone's surprise, Chen Yi once again got a bye. The classmates couldn't help but talk a lot. The head teacher Zhou Heji also looked surprised. He didn't release the water this time. After all, these 7 people are already the strongest in the class, and it is useless to release water. Wang Kaishuan hammered Chen Yi's chest. I'm going, good luck. Chen Yi smiled. That's not it. Wang Kaishuan looked envious. If I am like Chen Yi and get the top 10 in the class, he will also be rewarded with mineral resources. But the game still has to be watched. Huang Yilong glanced at Chen Yi angrily. Chen Yi is lucky and I don't know how to say it. These few games did not play at all. In the 4th round of selection, there were only 3 games, which was faster. 3 people were directly eliminated. In the semifinals, Chen Yi directly drew number 4, while Huang Yilong drew no. 2. It happened to be Huang Yilong to Chen Yi. Huang Yilong looked at Chen Yi with a grin at the corner of his mouth. Good boy, let me finally meet you. Chen Yi looked at the look on Huang Yilong's face, and realized that this guy wanted to fight him a long time ago. The 2 sides sat on the battle chairs. At this time, the Tauren on the plain of harvest had received Chen Yi's oracle, lying on their own bed, with their souls drifting. The wild boar and Tauren have already appeared on the battlefield of the grassland plain at this time. Huang Yilong's face was triumphant. He has already equipped all the wild boars with iron bows and steel arrows, and will shoot you all before the Tauren arrives. Moreover, he still has a whole card that has not been used. The giant boar chief had already taken out a giant mace at this time. The mace is about 1 meter and 5 meters long and as thin as the mouth of the sea bull. The moment it was taken out, the surrounding grass had already begun to appear frost. A cold halo about 5 meters in diameter appeared next to the boar chief. All the areas covered by the cold halo area were condensed with frost. Seeing this scene, the people in class 10 were stunned. I'm going, isn't it? It's an enchanted weapon. Is Huang Yilong's family so rich? You can get all enchanted weapons. I heard that Huang Yilong's family is mining an ancient god plane, isn't it rich? This mace seems to be enchanted with some kind of cold divine power. It's the cold power. I'm afraid Chen Yi's Tauren is now in danger. Huang Yilong smiled triumphantly. The cold mace that I, the Boorman chieftain, can greatly slow down the attack and movement speed of the surrounding enemies. What can you compare to me? Hearing Huang Yilong say this, Chen Yi did not answer, but issued an oracle to Cain. Cain, when the battle is in progress, try to avoid the boar chief, and deal with the rest of the boars first. When Cain heard Chen Yi's oracle, he was immediately energetic. Yes, Father God. Seeing Chen Yi ignored him, Huang Yilong asked for a boring one. Then he gave an order to his wild boar. Crush all the Tauren into meat sauce. Hearing Huang Yilong's words, the 200 wild boars exhaled heat, and the fangs at the corners of their mouths also shone with a white glow. His eyes looked at the 100 Tauren exuding bloodthirsty light. All the students in the class watched the battle on the battlefield with expectation. After all, Chen Yi's Tauren is strong. Even if the wild boar has an enchanted weapon, he may not be able to win. In the prairie plain, Cain squeezed the long-handled battle axe in his hand, and he understood that the next battle was definitely a fierce battle. People, are you afraid of death? Not afraid of death. Follow me then. Cain charged first, followed by the other Tauren. The momentum is extremely powerful. Seeing this scene, the group of wild boar men took out the iron bow. Swish swish, The steel arrow shot at the Tauren's camp with a huge impact. Dingling banging. Arrows shot continuously on the steel armor of the Tauren. The huge impact caused those arrows to leave deep pits on the armor. Under the protection of the armor, it did not cause any harm to the Tauren. But if it takes a long time, I am afraid it is not necessarily. So the Tauren tried his best to get closer to the group of wild boars. The boar chief is already a man, and Juan Fumo usually stands in front of the Tauren charging team. And Cain, watching the boar chief suddenly rise in his fighting spirit. People, you go to deal with the other wild boars first, I will do it with this big one. Asterisk. Upon receiving Cain's order, all the Tauren passed the boar chief and attacked the archers. The wild boar archers had already taken out the spears placed on their backs and chopped them up against the Tauren. The leather armor of these wild boars is extremely sophisticated, and the spears in their hands are forged of steel. Stabbed at the Tauren. The height of those wild boars is about 2 meters, and the height is slightly shorter than those of Tauren. Viper sting. This is the skill of the archer. The spear in his hand was like a poisonous snake, stabbing in an incredible direction. Clang clang. There was a ring of gold and iron, and the attack like a snake was blocked by the armor on the Tauren. And the long-handled battle axe in the hands of the Tauren, like a force-smashing washin, slashed directly at the heads of those wild boars. Kong dang. The spears in the hands of those wild boars were placed horizontally on top of their heads, and they were cut into 2 pieces by the heavy axe of the Tauren. And the remaining power of the battle axe was undiminished, and it directly split the heads of those wild boars. Seeing that those wild boars died, they couldn't die anymore. Seeing this scene, all the students were shocked. How come? How high is the base strength of that Tauren? Even if it is a mad war soldier type, it only adds 30 points of strength. Oh my god, fortunately Chen Yi has a bye, otherwise my race will be marked as mentally ill. No, this Huang Yilong is dangerous even if it is enchanted. Huang Yilong looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. How could he have reached 20 basic strength of the boar man? With the addition of the pikeman's strength bonus, it has reached 60 points. But it was still cut into this way by these Tauren. How many power bonuses did these Tauren have? The remaining wild boars picked up the spears in their hands and scattered to the surroundings. This is no longer what they can resist. These Tauren are like demon gods. A simple fight killed nearly half of their compatriots. This is simply not human. But here, Cain has fallen into a huge stalemate. The boar chief, who was more than 3 meters high, kept slamming Cain with the cold mace in his hand. The armor transferred by the Boorman chieftain is a heavy tank-type mace. Without skills, the only talent is to increase the attack power of ordinary attacks by 50%. This boar chief ate the extremely rare fruit of power, and not only the basic strength sword, but also the size of the boar became larger than the ordinary boar. Coupled with the cold halo brought by the cold mace in the hands of the boar chief, Cain is now struggling to stand in the cold halo. But Cain's physique is far stronger than this boar chief, even in strength. Therefore, although the Boorman chief suppressed Cain temporarily, his physical stamina was not good, and soon he felt panting. At this time, the remaining Tauren had already killed all the remaining wild boars. Seeing that their chieftain was suppressed by the boar chief, they all wanted to join the battle group to help. Stop. Cain looked at the boar chief with fighting spirit in his eyes. Let me come alone, this is a battle between chiefs. The other Tauren were in awe, and after saluting Cain, they came to the side. Seeing this scene, Huang Yilong gritted his teeth. Dare to despise my boar chief. This Tauren is really arrogant. Class 10 students watched the battle nervously in the audience. This battle is really exciting. Especially Cain's sentence, this is a battle between chiefs. It's almost exploded. Okay. Although they are all gods, they are essentially just a group of 16-year-olds. Step plane. A large piece of armor on Cain's body has been blown away, and his body is covered with frost. The skin was also red and swollen from freezing. However, due to the 40% magic resistance of the bull battle body, part of the cold damage was offset. But as Cain was injured, violent blood raged, and the speed of his body gradually accelerated. When watching Cain wielding his battle axe more and more smoothly, Huang Yilong was shocked. How come? You know, this cold aura will almost reduce the enemy's attack and movement speed by 75%. Let the enemy slow as a snail. Moreover, the fury of the berserkers will only increase the attack power after being injured. I have never heard that it will increase the attack speed. But these are not what Huang Yilong can know. As Cain got more injured and the battle axe in his hand attacked faster and faster, the boar chief was overwhelmed. The cold mace in his hand gradually became unable to suppress the long-handled battle axe in Cain's hand. Seeing this scene, Huang Yilong couldn't help it anymore. Fat pig, start magic. Hearing the oracle sent by God the Father, the boar chief immediately executed the order. The look in his eyes had become indifferent, and then he began to yell in his mouth. Divine art, giant pigman. After the boar chief turned on the giant pig, his body was immediately enveloped by an extremely powerful force. And his body has also begun to grow larger. Asterisk. The boar chief's body has grown to a height of 10 meters. But Huang Yilong's eyes felt a burst of heartache. Because this pigman giant has directly lost a bit of his supernatural power. Even if it is a projection, it has lost a bit of supernatural power. Looking at the boar chief who had become a giant, there were discussions in the class. I really didn't expect that Huang Yilong would actually activate the magic of his religious teachings. I can't bear it. I want a bit of magical power. Yes, I still have 800,000 faith points until now, and I still need to transform my arms. You have 800,000. Then you are a rich woman. I only have 200,000 now. Look, everyone, Huang Yilong's painful expression, I'm afraid it will cost a lot of money to use magic skills. Really, but the power of this magical technique is really strong. Chen Yi's Tauren is dangerous. Chen Yi looked at the boar chief who had grown into a giant, and his eyes were very surprised. Unexpectedly, Huang Yilong's magic arts were so powerful. Can increase the strength of this boar chief so many times. But his own Tauren can still deal with it. Maybe Cain can deal with it alone. Of course, Cain can only fight after he has started his wild anger. At this time, the boar chieftain, the enchanted weapon in his hand also grew larger as his size changed. It has reached a length of 5 meters, and its diameter is like a century-old tree. The boar chief looked at Cain who had reached his knee and stepped on it. Cain looked at the huge pig's feet, dodged and slashed at the heel of the pig's feet. The thick pigskin directly blocked the swing of Cain's battle axe. Cain couldn't help feeling a little anxious. Then he slashed harder, and the boar chief suddenly felt a sharp pain in his ankle. The cold mace in his hand immediately swung away at Cain beside his leg. However, while the pigman's jauntization has brought body growth, it has also seriously affected the agility of the boar chief. Before the huge cold mace arrived, Cain avoided it. The boar chief couldn't help but feel a little anxious. Because this continues, my strength will be exhausted sooner or later. Chen Yi looked at Cain's situation, and then issued an oracle. Single what? Give me a gang fight. Hearing Chen Yi's oracle, Cain sighed. It's really a failure to be the chief. Then he greeted the other Tauren. Clan people, come to gang fight. Hearing Cain's call, the other Tauren rushed to the feet of the boar chief. Everyone joined forces and directly hugged the boar chief's leg and threw him on the ground. Boom! Roshan, which was nearly 10 meters away, directly smashed the ground into a big hole. As soon as the boar chief thought of getting up, he was directly pressed to the ground by the other Tauren. Although the strength of a single Tauren is not as strong as the boar chief, but 100 total, it is not the boar chief can resist at all. Moreover, it only took more than 30 Tauren to press the boar chieftain to the ground. The cold mace lost the control of the boar chief, and his size returned to its normal size. Cain held it in his hand and knocked it down on the knee of the boar chief. Wow! The boar chief felt great pain. Huang Yilong looked at the Tauren gang beating his boar chief, and couldn't help being a little angry. Isn't it a good one-on-one? Tauren, you don't speak martial ethics. Under the constant slashing and percussions of Cain and the other Tauren, the boar chief was chopped into meat sauce in just 10 minutes. After seeing the class teacher Zhou Haji, he blew the whistle. Chen Yi wins. And Huang Yilong got up directly and snorted looking at Chen Yi. Today's battle, I can lose a lot. Chen Yi smiled indifferently. Give you some education, you should thank me. And next, Chen Yi and the number 1 student in the final. At this time, the winning number 1 had already come to the side of the class teacher Zhou Haji. The head teacher, I don't want to fight Chen Yi. He is too powerful and I can't fight. Zhou Heji looked at the students in front of him and nodded. After all, the combat effectiveness of Chen Yi's Tauren now far exceeds that of ordinary students. I'm afraid that the lower gods who ignite the sacred fire, their race is no more than that. Chen Yi has returned to the team at this time. At this time, Zhou Heji shouted, "No." Wang Lily abstained. The champion of Class 10 is Chen Yi. Hearing this, Chen Yi was a little surprised. Did you abstain? He still wants to let the Tauren fight another game. At this moment, Wang Kaixuan smiled happily. Chen Yi, I am optimistic about you. The next step is the duel between the school's 10 freshman classes. Hearing this, Chen Yi nodded. The 3 things rewarded by the first place are all that I desperately need. At this time, Zhou Heji had already taken out something. This is a tungsten mineral resource card. Now it will be awarded to Chen Yi, the first place in our class. Asterisk. Chapter 21. Chen Yi couldn't help being a little surprised when he heard Zhou Heji say this. Unexpectedly, there will be additional rewards for the first place in the class. This tungsten ore resource card can generate a tungsten ore on Chen Yi's harvest plane. This tungsten ore is extremely suitable as an alloy metal. Smelting with iron in a certain proportion can produce a tungsten steel alloy that is harder than steel. Chen Yi couldn't help being a little excited. In this case, he can forge part of the tungsten steel alloy into armored weapons, and the odds of winning the game tomorrow will become even greater. Zhou Heji looked at Chen Yi. Come up and take it. Chen Yi nodded, and then took the stage to lead the tungsten ore resource card. Zhou Heji looked at all the students at this time. Tomorrow will be the school's finals. It's still the old time, and it's all right until 9:30. Disband. After speaking, everyone dispersed. Wang Kaixuan looked at Chen Yi with envy at this time. Chen Yi, you can make a lot of money now. Putting this tungsten ore resource card on the market, it will cost 10,000 magic coins. Chen Yi smiled. It's okay, I'm going to the dormitory now. Wang Kaixuan nodded. Well, I want to go home too. It's really uncomfortable to be an audience. I have to ask my dad for resources. Haha, come on. After saying goodbye to Wang Kaixuan, Chen Yi returned to the dormitory. Being able to obtain tungsten ore is the biggest gain today. After simply drinking some water and eating a bag of instant noodles, Chen Yi immersed himself in the plane of harvest. For the tungsten ore resource card, Chen Yi chose to be next to the iron ore. A strong light suddenly fell from the sky, directly hitting the foot of the mountain. Countless tungsten mines are formed at the foot of the mountain. Gradually, the tungsten mine has spread outside the foot of the mountain and has become an open-pit tungsten vein. Chen Yi then issued an oracle to Cain. Cain, I created a tungsten ore next to the iron ore. Tungsten and iron can synthesize a harder tungsten steel alloy. Now lead the people to mine. In this half-month's time, as many sets of tungsten steel armors can be forged, as many sets of armors can be forged, and prepare for the next magical battle. Cain, who was holding his wife at this time, suddenly became energetic after hearing the oracle. Anyway, it is the slack time in the farming period, and the nature of the Tauren is that the body is not vigorous when idle. Father God. Cain immediately picked up the basket, picked up the iron pick, and greeted the other Tauren. People, the new oracle has come down, and the great god of harvest has created a new vein for us. All the men, all go to mine with me. The woman makes a meal at home and waits for us to come back. Cain led 149 male Tauren to the open tungsten vein. The white and black tungsten ore are intertwined, and the white tungsten ore looks like grains, with a shiny luster. Black tungsten ore is brown or black with metallic luster. At this time, a Tauren who got the blacksmith profession picked up a piece of white tungsten ore according to the memory of the blacksmith profession. These white tungsten ore, smelted together according to the ratio of tungsten 3:7, the firmness is greatly improved, and it is the best material for forging tungsten steel armor. Then the Tauren looked at the black tungsten ore again. This black tungsten ore is smelted together in the ratio of tungsten to iron to 9, and the forged weapon will be extremely sharp and extremely tough. Cain couldn't help but feel excited. Praise the god of harvest. The other Tauren also cheered. Praise the god of harvest. On Chen Yi's side, he received a message from the will of the plane. Record, the miracle you showed. The Tauren was greatly shocked. Record, your Tauren was extremely religious in his heart, and he held a temporary prayer for you. Record, your Tauren provided you with 53,739 points of faith. At this time, Chen Yi's belief value has reached 348,600 points. Cain had already led the tribe to start mining at this time. Jingle bells. In this autumn and winter season, the vigorous physical activity caused all the Tauren's foreheads to emit a layer of fine sweat. Due to the tremendous increase in physique, the Tauren did not feel too tired. But under such vigorous mining, several mine picks were worn out. However, there are many spare mining picks, and the Tauren does not feel distressed. Tungsten ore is mined piece by piece. The clearing piled up in the distance became a hill. Cain looked at the people, and then shouted, "Everyone now transports tungsten ore with me." Pieces of tungsten ore were placed in the baskets and carried back to the furnace. The furnace was already full of coal and ignited at this time. Under the action of the blower, the extremely hot purple-red flame filled the furnace. The melting point of tungsten is much higher than that of steel. Reached more than 3,500 degrees. If you want to smelt this tungsten ore, the flame needed is more intense. Coal of excellent quality is constantly being stuffed into the furnace. The two Tauren were manipulating the animal skin bellows on the side, and constantly blowing on the coals. Rushing. At this time, an extremely bright light appeared in the hearth of the furnace. This is the performance of the extreme temperature. The tungsten ore in the furnace finally reached its melting point and began to melt. The tungsten ingots that had been smelted continued to pile up outside the furnace. Gradually piled up into a mountain of tungsten ingots. Seeing that the smelting was almost done, the 10 blacksmiths started the fusion of iron and tungsten ingots. Tungsten steel ingots are divided into white tungsten steel ingots and black tungsten steel ingots. At this time, the Tauren blacksmith told Cain that because the tungsten steel was too hard, he could only forge a weapon and a set of armor within half a month. Cain agreed, decided to use that set of armor and weapons on his body. After all, he is the strongest in the clan. Then the Tauren blacksmith began to forge those tungsten steel ingots into armor pieces and weapons. After more than half a month of steaming production, he finally forged a white tungsten steel armor and a black tungsten steel long-handled battle axe. Cain happily looked at the forged tungsten steel tomahawk, and the specially forged matte feeling was extremely comfortable after holding it. The other Tauren clapped after seeing Cain's imposing manner. Good. Cain played for a while, then shouted, "Come on, bring my previous battle axe." At this time, a Tauren took Cain's iron long-handled battle axe over. Looking at the Tauren, Cain said, "You take this tomahawk and slash against me." The Tauren nodded, then set his posture. The rest of the Tauren looked forward to this scene, wondering how strong this tungsten steel battle axe is. "Come." Cain beckoned, and the Tauren saw it and slashed directly at Cain. When the tungsten steel battle axe in Cain's hand slashed directly with the iron battle axe, then there was a sound like paper cutting, stabbing. The iron tomahawk was directly split in half by Cain's tungsten steel tomahawk. Cain looked at the scene in front of him with great excitement. This sharpness is simply incredible. The Tauren around also got together. One of the Tauren picked up the axe that had been chopped in two, and found that the chopped cross-section was as smooth as a mirror. The sharpness of this tungsten steel tomahawk can be imagined. Cain quickly began testing the tungsten steel armor. The ordinary iron battle axe slashed on the tungsten steel armor, leaving no iron mark. Defensive power is evident. Chen Yi was also satisfied when he saw this scene. But at this moment Chen Yi suddenly thought that even with the tungsten steel battle armor and battle axe, at best the attack power and defense power would be strengthened. But for Cain, there is no substantial improvement. Thinking of this, Chen Yi looked at those belief values. Because of the harvest of tungsten ore, the belief value has now accumulated 800,000. 1 point of supernatural power can convert units into heroes, which can provide great combat power bonuses. The Borman chieftain before should have been transformed into a hero, so he was only that huge in size. Chen Yi didn't know the existence of the fruit of power yet, thinking that only by transforming into a hero could it become like this. But to transform Cain into a hero, it takes a bit of supernatural power. Thinking of this, Chen Yi lowered the oracle. For Cain to hold a very grand sacrificial ceremony, he will bless Cain. Cain will be extremely powerful. After receiving Chen Yi's oracle, Cain gathered his tribe to work intensively. This sacrifice can be said to be the most grand sacrifice since the opening of the plain. Chen Yi descended the oracle, and on this day, it can be called the New Year. From then on, every year after this day, the Tauren will begin a grand ceremony. The appearance of the New Year also gave birth to the appearance of the calendar. Cain appointed a wise Tauren to record the history and calendar for the entire tribe. The appearance of historians also means that the Tauren tribe has entered the ranks of civilization. Chen Yi looked at the divine power that had condensed one point, and then lowered his divine light. Cain was shrouded in divine light, and the blood in the musculoskeletal fascia and internal organs of his body continued to grow and strengthen. At this time, Cain's body has reached a height of 3 meters. The huge Cain stands out among the Tauren tribe at this time. The tungsten steel armor and tungsten steel long-handled battle axe equipped by Cain have become generally matched with Cain under the action of supernatural power. Become a berserker hero. The historian of the Tauren tribe also recorded this scene. In the first year of the new calendar, Tauren chief Cain was blessed by divine power. He reached a height of 3 meters and grew into a giant Tauren. On Chen Yi's side, he also received the record of planar will. Record, your Tauren chieftain, Cain, has been blessed by divine power and successfully transformed into a berserker hero. Chen Yi clicked on Cain's hero panel. Name, Cain, hero. Race, Tauren. Occupation, berserker. Power, 350. Physique, 500. Agility, 105. Wisdom, 5. Lifespan, 120 years old. Skills, whirlwind, heavy blow. Talent, master planting, furious blood fury. Introduction, the chief of the Tauren tribe, the most powerful berserker, the earth will tremble because of his power. Asterisk. The third day of the freshman contest. This third day has attracted the attention of countless people. Because this time the reward for the first place is really rich. Plain expansion card, rare mount race Kodo, and enchanter transfer scroll. Everyone can sell millions of magic coins in the black market at a sky-high price. Chen Yi has also been sitting in the competition seat on behalf of Class 10. The first place in the rest of the class, looking at the opponents around him, his eyes were full of disdain. This game must be won, absolutely not lost. After all, getting the first prize will save countless developmental time. It is not impossible to ignite the sacred fire before the end of the semester. After all, only by lighting a sacred fire and becoming a lower deity can you qualify for college entrance examination. I don't know how many people reached the third year of high school, and they didn't even ignite the sacred fire, and they have been reduced to the bottom of society. After all, there is only one chance to enter the university. That was when you were in your third year of high school. Once it fails, there is no second chance. So all cherish this opportunity very much. Only when you arrive at the university, you have more resources waiting for you. At this time, the lottery has begun, and the students in Class 10 have begun to cheer for Chen Yi. Come on Chen Yi, you are the best. Yes, Chen Yi, come on, I will give you a monkey if I get the first place. Are you not the man? Who said that men can't have monkeys? Hearing this conversation, Chen Yi couldn't laugh or cry. Good guy, all the raw monkeys have been made up. When assigned to Chen Yi, the number of draws was 8. It is an auspicious number. On the playground, the original 10 arena has been reduced to 5. Next, what Chen Yi wants to face is no. 4. Chen Yi walked off the bench, and number 4 has also walked off. What Chen Yi didn't expect was that number 4 was actually a girl. Sitting in the combat chair, Chen Yi first observed the situation on this plane. This is a plain with a perfect ecological environment, including plains, woodlands, and mountains. At this time, the referee has begun to blow his whistle. Chen Yi from Class 8 and Class 10, against Sui Tang from Class 4 and Class 9. As soon as the voice fell, the girl named Sui Tang had already prevented her class from being placed on the plane of the game plane. Seeing the units on the game plane, Chen Yi's pupils shrank. Unexpectedly, it is actually a rare race dwarf race. And the number is quite large, there are 300 people. However, the absence of heroes made Chen Yi a sigh of relief. But the blacksmiths of the dwarves are so good that they can even use bronze to make weapons comparable to iron. The armors worn by the dwarves are all shining silver, and they seem to be extremely defensive. The hammer in his hand is more like big pumpkins. This battle seems to be a bit difficult to fight. The more you go to the next game, the more people get family resources. Chen Yi, a student who has no background support, is already rare to be able to reach this point. Afterwards, Chen Yi placed the Tauren in front of the dwarf race. But the Tauren gathered together, and it looked like they had more than that dwarven army. Those dwarves are only about 1.3 meters tall, and even if there are 300 people, there is no way to compare them with the Tauren with only 100 people. Sui Tang looked at Chen Yi's Tauren without any surprise. Last night, she asked the housekeeper to put all the information of the first place in the class in front of her. This Chen Yi's Tauren is probably mutated. Coupled with the berserker profession, this created a strong illusion of these Tauren. Sui Tang didn't know the existence of Chen Yi's violent blood and rage. If he knew it, his expression would naturally not be as calm as it is now. At this time, the 3-meter-high Cain, holding a tungsten steel battle axe, yelled at the group of dwarves. Moo! The huge voice and Cain's 3-meter height made the dwarves involuntarily a trace of fear. After all, their general height is only about 1.3 meters, Cain's 3 meters is too oppressive. For example, your height is 1.7 meters. Facing a strong man of 1.9 meters, you will feel fear involuntarily in your heart. Not to mention so much difference. Even those 2-meter and 5-meter Tauren around are too oppressive for dwarves. How could God let them face such an existence? However, thinking of the mithril armor they were wearing, these dwarves gradually felt relieved. After all, this mithril armor is extremely defensive, and even if the leading Tauren is a weapon made of black tungsten steel, there is absolutely no way to break the mithril armor's defense. After Cain roared, he shouted to the Tauren behind him, "Clan people, it's time to kill the enemy. Kill me." After Cain finished speaking, he held his battle axe to kill those dwarves. The Tauren behind him are all menacing. Seeing the high morale of Chen Yi Tauren, Sui Tang couldn't help flashing shock in his eyes. There was no such thing in yesterday's data. The combat effectiveness of an army with high morale and an army with low morale is not the same at all. Seeing that his dwarf was a little depressed, Sui Tang immediately activated the power of his priesthood. War fever. Sui Tang, whose priesthood is the god of war, immediately boosted the morale of all the dwarven soldiers. This auxiliary method is allowed in the game. Those dwarves have completely abandoned their fear of the Tauren at this moment, and now there is only war in their minds. War, 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 all holding hammers screamed and charged towards Cain and the others. Asterisk. Boom. The Tauren troops collided with the dwarf troops. The huge impact directly smashed the 10 dwarves in the front row. But Cain, who rushed to the front, didn't feel the shock at all. Dancing with the tungsten steel battle axe, slashing frantically at those dwarves. Dang dang dang. The tungsten steel battle axe left a series of sparks on the silver armor of the dwarves in the front row. In the eyes of everyone's surprise, the silver armor of the dwarves was not damaged. Some sharp-eyed students already recognized what armor it was. No, it's mithril armor. What? After the other students heard it, they couldn't believe it. Mithril armor. In their opinion, being able to obtain mithril armor is simply incredible. Mithril is an extremely rare metal. It is far rarer than gold. The ductility is like bronze, and it can be polished like glass. And mithril is much harder than steel, and its weight is only half of steel. And has strong magic resistance. Many magical equipment require the addition of mithril. But this Sui Tang actually forged the mithril into armor. It was a violent thing. After all, after mithril forged, it is difficult to forge other equipment. Sui Tang looked at Chen Yi with firm eyes. These Tauren of Chen Yi absolutely can't break through the defense of their own dwarves. How can they be defeated? In that reduced plane, Cain and the others have battled with the dwarves. The armor on those dwarves is like eternal metal. Hitting it up, it has no effect at all. Cain couldn't help but get anxious. These dwarves are just like turtle shells. There is no way to kill them. Those dwarves have become more and more courageous under the influence of war frenzy. The 3 dwarves are fighting a Tauren, as if they are fighting a boss. Every time the hammer in their hands strikes, they can knock a hole in the iron armor of the Tauren. But the Tauren is not afraid of injury. The more injured, the stronger. Cain looked at the 3 dwarves who were besieging him, and he couldn't help feeling fierce in his heart. Whirlwind. When, Cain rounded the tungsten steel battle axe, and enveloped all the dwarves within his attack range. The 3 dwarves were immediately knocked into the air by Cain under the huge impact. Even mithril armor can't cushion this force. Kong dang. The 3 dwarves landed on a distant rock, and the blood directly stained their helmets. It was stained red by the blood vomited from these short people. Getting up with difficulty, the 3 dwarves were obviously internally injured by the huge impact of Cain just now. When Cain saw this, he immediately understood that the weird armor cushions worn by these dwarves had their limits. Then all other Tauren were ordered. All tribesmen, use heavy blows. These little dwarfs are afraid of this. Hearing Cain's words, all the other Tauren pointed their battle axes at the heads of the dwarves. Hit. The heavy blow that doubled the attack fell directly on the helmets of those dwarves. Those dwarves couldn't escape at all. Puff. Suddenly, the helmets of more than 100 dwarves were dyed red by the blood vomited from these little people. Seeing this scene, Sui Tang, who was opposite Chen Yi, could no longer sit still. What? Having found the weakness of these dwarves, the Tauren seemed to have discovered the new world. There was an incomparable surprise in his eyes. Now that the weakness is found, there is no need to just smash the armor of these dwarves like Tai Han Han before. When the other dwarves saw the death of their surrounding companions, they suddenly lost the courage to fight these Tauren. Boom boom boom. The remaining dwarves were killed one by the Tauren. The battle ended easily. The original strength of these dwarves couldn't be compared with the Tauren, and they all depended on the mithril armor to support them. Now that the weakness has been found, naturally there will be no chance of winning. Sui Tang's face was pale here. Mithril armor could not resist the attacks of those Tauren. What did these Tauren grow up eating? At this time, the referee under the ring has blown his whistle. Class 10 Chen Yi wins. Chen Yi took the Tauren back to his harvest plain, looked at Sui Tang who had come down from the ring, stretched out his hand and said, "Sorry, friendship is the first." Humph. Sui Tang gave Chen Yi a white glance, and then left here. Chen Yi looked at this Tsunere chick and couldn't help feeling a little bit funny in his heart. The battles in other arenas also produced their own champions one by one. The referee also blew his whistle in due course. Class 1 Fang Nan wins. Class 2 Zhang Heji wins. Class 5 Lu Zonghai wins. Class 8 Zhou Lija wins. When Chen Yi heard the name of Zhang Heji, he immediately remembered. My principal seems to have the surname Zhang. This should be the principal's son. Afterwards, Chen Yi returned to the competition. Next, it's time to draw lots. Asterisk. Chen Yi looked at the number 5 in his hand, a strange color appeared on his face involuntarily. My bye again. How is this going? Chen Yi felt that there was absolutely no black box operation, it was pure luck. At this time, the referee had also announced the order of the next game. Class 1 Fang Nan vs. Class 2 Zhang Heji. Class 5 Lu Zonghai vs. Class 8 Zhou Lija. Class 10 Chen Yi, bye. As soon as the judge's voice fell, the Class 10 students also showed a weird look like Chen Yi. What's going on here? When he was in the class before, Chen Yi just kept by. This is also the result of the competition among freshmen who have now arrived at school. Some students even wonder whether Chen Yi's priesthood is the god of luck. Otherwise, this series will not explain at all. This time Abai gave Chen Yi a chance to observe those opponents. Therefore Chen Yi cherishes it. At this time, the game has already begun. Chen Yi first looked at the battle between Zhang Heji and Fang Nan. After all, this principal, his family background is the strongest among all the students. The resources available are far stronger than other students. The troll family of Zhang Heji had already appeared on the battlefield at this time. Hundreds of 4-meter-tall trolls, their feet on the ground are extremely oppressive. The troll body is covered with chains, which is the unique chainmail of the troll family. Holding a huge stick in his hand, that stick is made from the main pole of an iron tree. Not only light, but also hard as steel. At this moment, on the summit stage, the people around were complimenting the middle-aged man sitting in the middle. The son's talent is really powerful, he deserves to be your son. That is, the principal is a tiger father without a dog, and he has definitely inherited the principal's fine genes. The middle-aged man in the middle of the summit platform is also smiling. Obviously the flattery of the people around him makes him very suitable. At this time, Fang Nan in Class 1 had already placed his own race. A total of 50 races wearing blood-red robes, the magic crystal ball in their hands exudes brilliant light. The pointed ears and the eyes are full of blood. Epic race, Blood Elves. Chen Yi looked at the blood-red elves, and was surprised to find that this was actually a branch of the blood elves in the elves. Blood elves are born to use blood magic, which can control blood extremely powerfully. That Zhang Heji naturally knew the blood magic of this blood elf was powerful. But no matter how powerful it is not the time for these blood elves to be prestigious. Because blood magic has an upper limit. The strength of these blood elves have not yet advanced, and now they can only be regarded as a first-order blood mage. Because as long as the sacred fire is not ignited, it is impossible to advance one's own arms. And his troll is not a vegetarian. These blood elf wizards have very limited influence on the blood in the troll body. Then Zhang He reached an oracle. All trolls attack. Hundreds of trolls started to run towards the blood elf mages with huge strides. Under the huge body of the troll, the earth was trembling. Boom, boom, boom. The troll left countless huge footprints on the ground. Looking at the menacing trolls, blood elf mages, the magic crystals in their hands began to glow with blood-red light. The light is thick to the extreme. Whoosh! For each crystal, a blood-red chain appeared. Those scarlet chains seemed to be able to navigate automatically, directly connected with the 50 trolls in the front. Seeing this scene, Zhang Heji's face couldn't help being a little dignified. Vitality connection. A kind of blood magic. It can connect the life force of the blood elf mage and the troll. All things are prosperous, and all things are lost. But Zhang Heji would never stop killing those blood elf mages because of this. It's a big deal to sacrifice 50 trolls. 100 trolls had arrived at the blood elf mage's position, looked at the blood elves, brandished a huge stick and knocked it down. When the sticks hit the blood elf wizards, the blood glow of the chains connected by the vitality prospered. Directly shared most of the damage to those trolls. On the fat body of the 50 trolls, there were a series of stick marks. Heartbeat. The chains of the blood elf mage connected to those trolls suddenly fluctuated, and the connected trolls suddenly felt like their heart was hammered severely. What? The troll felt great pain. However, Zhang He's expression remained unchanged, and then the oracle was lowered. All the trolls connected by the chains of life, all dictate themselves. The vitality connection of the blood elves, the reason why they look so powerful, is mainly because they are connected to the trolls whose vitality is far greater than them. The troll is dead, and these blood elf wizards will definitely die too. After the trolls received the oracle from their father god, their eyes suddenly showed hesitation. After all, self-decision takes a lot of courage. But without hesitation, the eyes of the 50 trolls became firm. Kill. Asterisk. In a blink of an eye, the 50 trolls knocked on their heads. He swung the iron tree stick with great strength, and directly opened his head. And the blood elf wizards who were connected to the troll suddenly screamed in terror. The magic crystal ball burst instantly, shaking the blood wizards into blood mist. The man's face was pale. He didn't expect Zhang Heji to be so cruel. You must know that ordering believers to self-discipline is a great influence on faith. The referee also blew his whistle directly at this time. The victory of Class 2 Zhang He. Zhang Heji smiled slightly, and then stepped down. On the other side of the ring, the winner has already been decided at this time. Class 8 Zhou Lijiasheng. Now there are only 3 people left. It can be said that Chen Yi directly won and reached the top 3. Finally, the drawing began again. Chen Yi, Zhang Heji, and Zhou Lija all formed a circle at this time, and there were 3 lotuses in the bamboo tube in the middle. Draw number 3, then you can have a bye for the next semifinals. Just wait for the winners of number 1 and no. 2. Chen Yi looked at the lottery in the bamboo tube and drew a lottery at random. That Zhang Heji and Zhou Lija had already held the remaining 2 bamboo sticks in their hands at this time. Chen Yi looked at the characters on the bamboo sticks, and then saw the number 3 wedge engraved on the bamboo sticks. The expressions of Zhang Heji and Zhou Lija also looked very strange at this time. How could this kid be drawn again? Could it be that the priesthood of this kid really is the god of luck? This time it's good, and it's still the 2nd place. At this time, Chen Yi held up the bamboo stick representing number 3. I am number 3. The rest of the class was suddenly in an uproar. Why is this kid so lucky? It was bye twice in a row. Don't say it, I heard that this man named Chen Yi had a bye every time he played in his class. Really, that's really lucky. Who said no? If I had the luck of this guy, I guess my skeletons could be in the finals. It's not just luck. Didn't you watch the battle against the dwarves of Sui Tang from class 9? That's mithril armor. How many races in Zhongzhou High School can have mithril armor? If you run into those dwarves, can your 1,000 skeletons break their mithril armor? Indeed, even those senior high school seniors have never heard of a few people who can be equipped with races. This Sui family is a big family in Zhongzhou. Don't say it, this kind of person has strength and luck, so I won't be envious. The people in class 10 couldn't believe their eyes when they saw Chen Yi's bye again. With this luck, you can buy a lottery ticket. Oh, it's sour. No matter how sore, Chen Yi is in our 10th class anyway, it is better than the other ones. Haha, 2. Chen Yi, come on. Chen Yi hasn't played yet, why don't you come on? Ignoring the discussion in class 10, Chen Yi carefully watched the match between Zhang Heji and Zhou Lija. Zhou Lija's race was not an epic race, but a rare race. Centaur, half man and half horse exist. The upper body is the human torso, and the lower body is the horse's body. Centaurs are crude, violent, and unreasonable by nature. He is also a natural spearman and archer. Talent for precise strikes, able to stab the spear in the hand to the enemy's vitals, and the arrow can kill the enemy in one shot. The centaur is 2 meters tall and there are more than 300 in total. The centaur fertility rate is not high, but the 300 centaur troops are still beyond Chen Yi's expectations. After all, not only do you need to use your faith to switch arms, but you must also have enough sub-professions to develop your planes. If all of them are converted to arms, then the gain will not be worth the loss. It seems that Zhou Lija did not look like this time, but what resources he obtained. 300 centaurs have lined up. There are 150 spearmen in the front and 150 archers in the rear. Looking at the centaur, Zhang Heji's mouth showed a trace of disdain. Although this centaur looked extremely tough, it was not yet an opponent in the face of his troll. After all, the troll's skin is thick, and with the chainmail body, the arrow has no way to cause any damage to it. However, there was a glimmer of triumph in Zhou Lija's eyes. The paralysis of this crane must bear the due price. His centaur archer had already coated his arrows with paralytic toxins. Although it doesn't seem to be anything at first, in the end, those trolls will eventually be numb. At this time, the centaur archer had already drawn the ironwood bow in his hand into a full moon, and the bowstring made a tight sound. The centaur chief gave an order. Let's release the arrow. The rain of arrows all over the world attacked those trolls. The troll waved the stick in his hand and knocked down countless arrows. As for those arrows, only a few fish that slipped through the net shot onto the troll's body. The troll's skin was thick, and the arrow only shot half an inch into it, and it was clamped tightly by the troll's muscles. But the unknown paralytic toxin has already followed the muscles of the trolls and started to mix with the blood of the trolls to circulate throughout the body. Asterisk. Gradually, Zhang Heji discovered something wrong. The trolls hadn't charged into the centaur group, they had already begun to slow down. I immersed my consciousness on the battlefield plane, and then discovered the faint blue toxin liquid on the arrow. Zhang Heji glanced at Zhou Lija. This kid actually painted poison on the arrow. But Zhang Heji was not good at condemning anything. After all, he was on the battlefield, and his methods were omnipotent. As long as you can win, no one cares what means you use. Looking at the trolls who had been exhausted by the paralytic toxin, Zhang Heji immediately issued an oracle. Turn on the troll runaway. This troll runaway can greatly increase the attack speed and movement speed of the troll in a short period of time. Even if there are paralytic toxins, they can kill all the centaur before the paralytic toxin takes effect. Among the battlefield planes, the trolls who heard the oracle of the Father God suddenly began to turn red. The heart in the body is like a big pump, constantly beating violently. The monstrous bloody breath radiated from the body of the hundreds of trolls. The effect of that paralytic toxin had temporarily disappeared at this time. Boom, boom, boom. The earth was trembling, and the centaur looked at the raging trolls, and the spearman in the front row stood by. The spear in his hand was shining with a blue light. Obviously, the spears of these spearmen were also coated with paralytic toxins. The trolls came here soon, and the iron tree clubs in their hands had already swung directly at the centaur. Swish! The sound of breaking through the air continued to sound. It was the sound of iron tree clubs tearing the air. Those spearmen, with the determination to die, sent the spears in their hands into the flesh and blood of those trolls. Boom! The large centaur was smashed into meat sauce, and the poisoned spears in the hands of the centaur had also plunged into the thighs and belly of the trolls. This is the centaur's talent, precision strikes. Combined with the lethal strikes of the spear arms. Passing directly through the chainmail of those trolls and got into the flesh and blood of the trolls. The centaur archer has also dashed away, preparing to use kite flying to consume these trolls to death. But at this moment, the troll chief took out a scroll from his hand. Unfolding the scrolls, a rain of fire suddenly fell into the sky. As if they had eyes long, they attacked the centaur archers. Facing these magical attacks, those centaur archers did not have the slightest ability to resist, and they were suddenly burnt into coke by the rain of fire. Seeing this scene, Jolija couldn't help but widen his eyes. What? It's actually a scroll of rain of flames. After the other students saw it, they were also amazed. The principal is rich in wealth. This scroll of rain of flames can sell for 200,000 sacred coins on the market. No, but if you can get the rewards of this final, you can also pay back. But it's not the final yet, isn't there still the kid from class 10? His Tauren is like a war machine. How could the principal only have such a whole card? I'm afraid it's only one showing now. Chen Yi was obviously a little surprised when he saw the scroll of fire rain that the troll took out. He wondered if he would be defeated by this troll if his Tauren met him. If you only become second, you will only be given a 500 square kilometer plane expansion card. At this time, the referee in the audience had already blew his whistle. The victory of Class 2 Zhang He. Next, Class 2 Zhang Heji versus Class 10 Chen Yi. Without giving Chen Yi too much time to think about it, the finals started soon. Chen Yi went directly to the battle chair in the ring. At this time, the plane of the ring has also changed. It is a plane of the Gobi Plateau. This plane is full of weathered stone mountains and cracked canyons. It looks extremely desolate. Unexpectedly, the final will be held on such a plane. This is extremely detrimental to the core duel. Looking at the Gobi Plateau, Zhang Heji frowned slightly. This will greatly limit the troll's mobility. However, these planes are random, which is not good for oneself, but it is not very beneficial for the opponent. Picking a slightly flat Gobi desert, Zhang Heji's trolls have all arrived here. But at this time, what those trolls held in their hands were no longer iron tree clubs, but huge warhammers emitting a fiery red light. The head of the warhammer is 1 meter in diameter. If hit, I am afraid it will turn into meat sauce on the spot. Moreover, the handle and head of the hammer were all carved with flame-like runes, and the fiery red light radiated from those runes. Seeing this scene, the audience suddenly exclaimed. All of them are holding enchanted weapons. Now, the result of the battle is in front of you, and Chen Yi can't be Zhang Heji's opponent at all. Asterisk. The students in class 10 were very nervous when they saw this scene. I originally thought Chen Yi's Tauren could fight this crane troll. After all, those Tauren were really powerful. But now, there are 100 fire-enchanted weapons. This is impossible to fight at all. Chen Yi narrowed his eyes when he looked at the enchanted weapons in the hands of those trolls. I really didn't expect that this crane would actually leave such a backhand hole card. I haven't taken it out before, I'm afraid it's just waiting for the finals. However, Chen Yi's Tauren race has a bullish body, and the 40% magic resistance can well offset the attack of this enchanted weapon. At this time, Cain had led the tribe to the Gobi Desert. Looking at the trolls holding the flame warhammer high, Cain had no fear in his heart. People of the tribe, the time has come to dedicate their lives to God the Father. Those trolls are just a bunch of scum, paper tigers, don't be afraid. Follow me. After speaking, Cain stepped on the gravel and rushed towards the trolls with his battle axe high. The Tauren behind him shouted to kill the sky, looking like a rainbow. The trolls looked at the Tauren with a trace of disdain. When the Father God gave them these weapons before, after the experiment, a hammer can smash a 5-meter deep hole. What do these Tauren use to block? Roar! The trolls roared, burning flames appeared on the head of the flame warhammer in their hands, like burning fireballs. These are the powers of fire rune magic. Boom boom boom. The trolls took the flame warhammer and started rushing towards the Tauren. The scorching heat made these trolls sweat all over, and they just wanted to quickly kill all these Tauren. At this moment, the Tauren had already collided with the trolls wielding the flame warhammer. The flaming warhammer hit the Tauren's body. The Tauren, who used the battle axe to block, suddenly felt that the power of these trolls was not equal to them. Kong dang! The huge flame warhammer almost bends the iron handle of the Tauren's axe. Especially the hot flames, the Tauren's mane will be scorched. In this way, 100 Tauren and 100 trolls started a stalemate. But those trolls are not easy either. They didn't expect these Tauren's strength and endurance to be so strong. Especially the tallest big man, more fierce than 3+ together. Cain had already fought with the troll chief, the tungsten steel armor clanging on his body, and he had already received a hammer from the troll chief. However, the tungsten steel armor was extremely defensive. Did not cause much damage to Cain. But the flames emitted by the flaming warhammer in the hands of the troll extremely affected the battle. The extremely high temperature made both sides sweat. Because of the 40% magic resistance and the extremely strong physique, the Tauren performed much better than those trolls. Seeing this scene, Zhang Heji felt a little uneasy in his heart. What are these Tauren made of? The physical strength is so strong, and they are also immune to some of the damage of this rune magic. The troll will really be unable to take this Tauren for a while. As the flame flickered, the flame of the warhammer in the troll's hand became brighter and brighter. Boom! Almost in an instant, a shock wave of a powerful flame explosion hit the Tauren from the flame warhammer. The Tauren were suddenly turned over by the bombarded. Chen Yi saw this scene and couldn't help but clenched his right hand into a fist. This enchanted weapon is simply too bug, directly increasing the combat effectiveness of those trolls by 5 or 6 times. Otherwise, his Tauren would have taken it. The huge flame exploded, and the iron armors on the Tauren were all lifted to the side. Cain's tungsten steel armor was also shaken out of a crack at this time. Seeing this scene, Cain felt cruel. Everyone, drop the armor and fight with these trolls. Upon hearing Cain's order, all the Tauren took off their broken armor. Chen Yi understood at this time that Cain wanted to wipe out these trolls through the combination of violent blood fury and that wild fury. This incident fully embodies Cain's war wisdom. After taking off the armor, the Tauren were all naked and armed with battle axes to fight with the trolls. The flame warhammer in the hand of the troll is now ready to charge again to launch the next flame explosion. The Tauren did not evade, letting the flame warhammer hit their bodies. Crack! Some Tauren's bones were broken, but this also triggered the effect of violent blood fury. The Tauren's attack power and attack speed have been doubled. After using the whirlwind, it was like a real whirlwind, shrouding those trolls under his whirlwind axe blade. Asterisk. At this time, the upper bodies of the Tauren were almost scorched by the flames, but the battle axe in their hands had become an extremely fast cold light. With the huge attack power and attack speed bonus of furious bloodfury, the trolls felt that the manpower of the bullhead was extremely large, and their bodies were torn apart from wounds by the iron axe whirlwind. But the next flame exploded as scheduled. Boom! Flames rose all over the world, and a violent flame shock wave swept all the Tauren in an instant. The intense flame immediately burned all the Tauren skins into black carbon. A smile appeared at the corner of Zhang Heji's mouth. Right now, he could finally kill the Tauren. But the next second, the smile on the corner of Zhang Heji's mouth stopped abruptly. To everyone's surprise, the Tauren did not die at all. A ray of light enveloped all the Tauren, preventing them from dying. After those knowledgeable people saw it, the name of a magical technique suddenly popped up in their minds. Wild and angry. This magical technique that can be immune to death within 5 seconds. An extremely rare magical technique. Those Tauren who have become coke, whose physical strength has reached their limit, jumped up and chopped off all the heads of those trolls with the battle axe in their hands. No matter who sees such a scene, they will feel a great shock. After the Tauren killed all the trolls, they dangled and stood on the ground for a few seconds, and then disappeared into a cloud of smoke. Beep! The referee blew his whistle. Class 10 Chen Yi wins. As soon as the referee's voice fell, Chen Yi's heart was filled with great joy. I am finally number 1. I was finally able to get the 500 square kilometer plane expansion card, the rare Mount Race Kodo, and the Enchanter transfer scroll. Zhang Heji was full of loss. How could it be like this? With a full 100 enchanted weapons of his own, even those high school seniors may not be able to win against him. How can you, an orphan, a student with no power, no background, beat me? But the reality is so cruel. Zhang He's refusal cannot be tolerated. The people in Class 10 also burst into huge cheers at this time. Okay, Chen Yi won. Chen Yi, no, you will win. Chen Yi, you can't refuse, I will give you a monkey. It was Wang Kaixuan who said this, and Chen Yi couldn't help but feel a chill when he saw it. Don't you? Soon, it was the awards session. Chen Yi didn't see the principal, so he probably got angry away. Zhang Heji looked at Chen Yi with bad eyes and took away his first prize. Zhang Heji felt very deprived. After all, Chen Yi took a trick. If those Tauren were not wild and angry, those Tauren would be frenzied when the flame exploded for the second time. The award to Chen Yi was the Dean of Education. Soon, the 3 cards were handed over to Chen Yi. After receiving the award, he gave a speech as usual. Chen Yi came to the 10th class and felt very excited. Finally got what I wanted. Wang Kaixuan was excited, he just wanted to hug Chen Yi, but Chen Yi suddenly refused. What Wang Kaixuan said just now still echoes in Chen Yi's ears. Then he said to Wang Kaixuan, "You'd better find a girlfriend to give birth to a monkey." Wang Kaixuan smiled. I couldn't help it just now. At this time, Zhou Heji, the head teacher, has also come to Chen Yi. Congratulations, Chen Yi. Chen Yi nodded. Thank you, old class. Come on, work hard, you can definitely be the main force of Class 10 in the next plane invasion. When Chen Yi heard Zhou Heji's words, he suddenly remembered that this face-to-face invasion was the final exam for the first year of high school. The entire freshmen in the first grade will be thrown into an abandoned ancient god plane. The ancient gods can be said to be gods born in those planes, or they can be called innate gods. The strength of these innate gods is generally about the lower gods or the middle gods. There are also some planes that will give birth to such a powerful existence as the main god-level innate gods. These innate gods can be said to be the best material for cultivating planes of their gods. As long as you grab a congenital god, the wealth it brings will be extremely huge. This abandoned ancient god plane was captured by the innate gods, leaving only the planes of various life races. Plane invasion is to send their race to conquer the race of that plane. Those races can be enslaved and used as slaves. And there are some rare and even epic races. These races are very talented in some aspects. You can make your own plane develop faster. Thinking of this, Chen Yi nodded. Will do. Next, waiting for those school leaders to finish speaking, it was already dark. The schedule of the God School is extremely free, and you only need to wait until the end of the year to take the final exam of invasion of the plane. The rest of the time can be arranged by yourself. During this period, you can study by yourself or go to the library to read books. You can also develop your own race and cultivate your own plane. After disbanding, Chen Yi and Wang Kaixuan said goodbye and returned to the dormitory. He can't wait to use those rewards on his own plane, and the development of the Tauren can definitely go up several steps. Especially the scroll of enchanter transfer, Chen Yi has suffered from the loss of enchanting weapons in these few games. Asterisk. The plane of harvest. Chen Yi began to transform the plane at this time. The 500 square kilometer plane expansion card will give the Tauren a broader living space. Cain and the Tauren people suddenly felt that the whole world had begun to change drastically. The chaotic space at the edge of the plane had already begun to expand continuously at this time. This kind of expansion, for Cain and the others, is a powerful force that cannot be understood and cannot be seen directly. All the Tauren crawled on the ground, praying continuously. Pray for the great harvest god to bless them. Bless them through this disaster. The place Chen Yi chose to expand was the Black Land in the south and further south. 500 square kilometers of plains were created out of thin air. The plain changed from a square to a rectangle. The newly created plain also has its own vegetation, animals, insects, and so on. A river on that plain flows down from the southernmost mountain and into the lake on the east side of the Tauren camp. Lakes and rivers form a cycle. From then on, the water flow will circulate back and forth, full of infinite vitality. Living near the water, living near the water. The existence of the river provides great convenience for the subsequent watering of the land. Moreover, with flowing rivers, water wheels can be built, using water wheels for logging, grinding, and so on, all of which are extremely labor-saving. And in the newly opened plain, a corner of the building protruding from the ground caught Chen Yi's attention. Unexpectedly, a special building was actually produced. This is an extremely precious treasure. I just don't know what kind of ruined building it is, and I don't know what the treasures are in it. Only after sending Kane to lead the Tauren to explore. After Chen Yi used the 500 square kilometer plane expansion card, he began to use the rare Mount Kodo race card. In that newly opened plain, there was an additional Kodo herd of 100 Kodo beasts or herbivores and began to multiply on the newly opened grassland. These Kodo beasts were not a race born from the Chen Yi plain. The wildness has not been tamed yet, so Kane and the others can only be tamed. The last thing Chen Yi used later. The scroll that opens the secondary profession of enchanter is extremely precious. Anyone who transfers to an enchanter will get all the inheritance of the enchanter. With the deepening of research on their own skills, they will be passed down one by one. But now, Chen Yi feels that the Tauren has not yet been able to accept the existence of the enchanter's inheritance. Because this enchanter needs high wisdom and 1 point of divine power. He can only wait for his own infinite evolution to evolve the wisdom of the Tauren before he changes his job. Chen Yi feels that divine power is indeed not enough, and that divine power must be used everywhere. With enough divine power to ignite the sacred fire, I don't know that it will be the year of the monkey. As the world tremor disappeared, Chen Yi then looked at the God interface. The current interface of the gods has changed a lot. Deity interface. Name, Chen Yi. God's name, Asathos. Title, God of Harvest. God order, Demigod. Power, the power of harvest, unlimited evolution. Harvest power, a magical technique that can harvest quickly, and the output value of planting or breeding will reach the maximum value. Unlimited evolution, your race can evolve infinitely, and the evolution conditions will be triggered randomly once a month, limited to one race. Divine power. 0. Ignite the sacred fire, not lit. Required 100 points of supernatural power. Condensed Godhead, not condensed. Requires 10,000 supernatural powers. Construction of the kingdom of God, not constructed. Required as 1 million supernatural power. Sect, harvest God sect. Sacred emblem of sect, 2 extremely plump ears of wheat cross on the sickle. Pope, Cain. Divine art, wild fury, first tier, wild force, inactive, reign of life, inactive. Believers, Tauren. Faith, 19,799, each million points of faith can condense 1 point of divine power. God's domain, the plain of harvest. Area, 1,000 square kilometers. Climate, temperate. Topography, 40% of plains, 12% of mountains, 20% of woodlands, 3% of depressions, 12% of lakes, 8% of rivers, and 5% of karst caves. Soil, 25% black soil, 50% brown soil, 5% saline soil, 10% alpine soil, 10% lithological soil. Animals, wild boar, bison, pheasant, hare, frog, wild bear, tiger, wild wolf, tortoise, wild dog, wild cat, snake. Hydrology, 27 species of fish, 11 species of crustaceans, 14 species of shrimps, 8 species of crabs, and 5 species of cephalopods. Plants, 66 species of gymnosperms, 44 species of angiosperms, 59 species of ferns, 28 species of algae, 37 species of bryophytes, and 107 species of fungi. Minerals, iron ore, copper ore, silver ore, coal, rock ore, tungsten ore, gold ore. Special resources, none. Special building, skeleton labyrinth. Special plants, 1,000-year ginkgo tree. Introduction, the plain where plains and lakes coexist can develop planting, animal husbandry, fishery, and mining, and is extremely suitable for survival. Race, Tauren. Chief, Cain. Basic strength, 100. Basic physique, 200. Basic agility, 5. Basic wisdom, 3. Basic lifespan, 60 years old. Quantity, 510. Talent, master planter, blood of rage, bullfighting body. Explanation: the Tauren with strong endurance, the most powerful candidate for battle tank. Farmer 100, Hunter 20, Chef 10, Blacksmith 10, Tailor 10, Pharmacist 5, Miner 40, Lumberjack 40, Architect 50, Arms Interface, Arms Berserker 100, Special Arms 0, Mount Race, Race Kodo, Basic Strength 150, Basic Physique 300, Basic Agility 105, Basic Wisdom 1, Talent Hardworking. Introduction: a very hardworking race that can be used for transportation and as a mount. Chen Yi looked at the extra resources and was extremely happy. Especially the skeleton maze of special buildings, it is obvious that there is definitely a treasure in it. And the extra minerals, gold mines. It can be used in enchanting and alchemy. Now it's developed. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.